March 6th of 2024 of the Planning Board, Land Use Committee, and the Joint Committee of the Zoning Bylaw Review. We have one member participating remotely, maybe two, and as such, all votes will be taken in by roll call. So let's start with the roll call.
Chairman Gaffney.
Yes.
Member LaRue.
Yes.
Member Pemba's not here. Member Cavino.
Yes, here.
And Member Natola.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's see, Mr. Woodilla, do you have anybody here from the Bylaw Review Committee? Excuse me, Land Use, that if you could roll call those folks if there's anybody online. If not, just yourself then.
I'm here.
Oh, there you go, Monty's part of your crew. All right.
I'm not online.
Right. But you still have to roll call, I think, right? Because it was a joint.
Officially, yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we'll just say,
We're participating as individuals from the Land Use Committee
okay,
in your meeting as part of the information sharing. We're not taking votes. We're
That's
not
correct.
doing anything like that.
That's
So,
correct.
Roll call for land use. You invited us here, we're here.
Okay. So we've got Mr. Pearson and Mr. Woodilla. Now, we have anybody from
Sherry's on the
zoning
line.
bylaw, Ms. Ellis?
Sherry,
Yeah,
Betsy,
let me-
and Sally are here.
Let me make sure that Sherry is unmuted. Sherry and Sally are both been unmuted.
Okay. So Ms. Ellis?
And what about Betsy?
And,
Good evening.
and Betsy's also been requested unmute.
Ms. Hughes?
Good evening.
Okay,
Good
good evening. Okay.
Sherry, Betsy.
Sally Willard, okay. Okay, Sherry, I don't know if I see Sherry there, do I?
She's there.
Yep.
Yeah, she's
Okay,
here.
there we go. All right. Now let's rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So the town of Burlington will be holding the March 6, 2025 meeting as a hybrid meeting. The governor issued an executive order on March 12, 2020, authorizing remote meetings under General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, and extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, including permitting remote meetings in participation until March 31st, 2025.
As always, members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on the agenda should make plans for an in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. Those seeking to attend remotely may do so the following: townofburlington.webex.com. The meeting number is 2343-952-8703, and the password is 1645. Members of the public looking to participate, please raise your hand and staff will send you a request to unmute at the appropriate time. This meeting is also being broadcast on the BCAT government channel, which can be found on Comcast 99, RCN 15, Verizon 41, and streamed on Facebook Live via the BCAT Facebook page.
Okay, great, thank you. We have some continuances today. We'll begin with three items that are continued off the agenda for tonight. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to take items 8B, 8C, and 8D together and out of order for discussion purposes.
Gaffney.
Second? Okay.
Gaffney.
Yes.
LaRue.
Yes.
Pavino.
Yes,
Natola.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Item,
you have to
I
read
think that's me, yeah. So item 8B is a public hearing and application for approval of a special permit pursuing to 12.1.5 PD special permit for zoning bylaws 0 Middlesex Turnpike, NWP Building 15 LLC is the applicant. 8C is a public hearing and application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 1.6.7 discharge from man-made structures into the wetlands of Northwest Park Plan Development District, PDD, zoning bylaws 0 Middlesex Turnpike, and WP Building 15 LLC is the applicant. And 8D is a public hearing and application for approval for a special permit pursuant to 1.4.6 fast food establishments, drive-through services prohibited of the Northwest Park Plan Development District, PD, zoning bylaws 0 Middlesex Turnpike. Cracked Burlington LLC is the applicant.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue these matters to the planning board meeting of March 20th, 2025, as requested by the applicant in an email dated March 4th, 2025.
Second.
Gaffney,
Yes.
LaRue,
Yes.
Covino,
Yes.
Natola.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So, this is the joint meeting. This is the first time we're opening the discussion portion of these May town meeting items. No votes on the zoning amendments will be taken tonight. This meeting is an opportunity for each petitioner to present the proposed zoning bylaw changes that are seeking in May. The purpose of tonight is to listen to formulate questions which can be addressed at the public hearing at the next planning board meeting on the 20th of March. Members of the public with questions or comments can contact staff via email at planning@burlington.org or calling the planning office at 781-270-1645. And the earlier they get them in, the earlier it can be addressed. So please note that the planning board is not the final body to vote on these zoning amendments that will be discussed tonight. That's town meeting on May 12th. With that said, I'd like to establish a set of rules that be applied to all members of the public who will be speaking in tonight's meeting. I'm not seeing many yet. Please keep your comments on the topic relevant to the discussion that's occurring. If a previous speaker has stated an opinion that you agree with and do not wish to add on, please refrain from speaking and repeating what's already been said. And this is a hybrid meeting, and we appreciate all those attending, both online and in person. To ensure proper order, I'll call first on the members of the planning board, then move on to land use, then ZBRC members. Those in person will have the opportunity to speak first, and then we'll go to the ones online. I will then choose speakers based on order shown on the screen in front of me. All line attendants will be muted upon entry, so if you wish to speak, please use the hand raise function, which can be found at the bottom of your control panel. Now, on to our first item. Item 1A is a discussion for the 100-year floodplain zoning amendment submitted by the planning board on behalf of the Conservation Department. And who do we have here? We have.
Yes, Eileen is
Eileen's here.
online.
Okay.
There she goes.
And I've been waiting on this one for a little bit, so
Yeah.
we're excited about this one. Eileen, please.
Thank you, everybody. So this change is largely a housekeeping addition. We updated the floodplain bylaw in early 2024 in accordance with the requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program. The program, it required us to make certain changes to the bylaw, which we did. We are in compliance largely. All that's left to do to make us 100% in compliance is to update a few references to the floodplain maps, which are going to become current in July 2025. And we just updated some addresses that were slightly incorrect, and we removed a couple of flood zones that we actually just don't have in this town, but they're really all housekeeping updates.
Okay. Great, thank you. Staff, any comments?
No, staff does not have any comments on this.
Okay. We'll start with planning board members. I'll start with the folks that are here. Mr. Covino.
No questions or comments at the moment, thank you.
Okay, Ms. LaRue
I have nothing, thank you.
and Ms. Natola.
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. I think this is pretty straightforward, so I do not have any comments as well. So it sounds like housekeeping issues, something just to be compliant, with the state and federal laws. So may I have a motion?
No.
Oops, sorry. Oops, sorry, land use first, thank you. Anybody from land use, any comments from land use? 1, 2, no. Anybody online, hands up? And now I'll go to ZBRC. Is one for Ms. Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. I had a simple question. If town meeting adopts this bylaw and we approve the maps, but for some reason the federal government does not then approve these maps or finalize them, what happens? Is that a condition that could occur?
Ms. Cohen, do you know?
I have no idea if that's a condition that could occur. What I would assume, though, would happen is that the existing maps remain as current. We have current maps right now. If you go onto our AppGeo, if you look at FEMA, the FEMA Flood Map Center, you will find the current maps they would probably just remain in effect.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So anyone else from ZBRC? Okay, seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to a public hearing at the planning board meeting of March 20th, 2025.
Second,
Gaffney,
Yes.
LaRue,
Yes.
Cavino,
yes.
Natola.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Oh, and Brenda's also,
And Brett,
Rappaport?
Rappaport.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, thank you, Eileen.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, item 1B is a discussion for a text amendment to the MBTA Community's multifamily overlay district zoning bylaws.
Set this full screen for you. And then just your arrows there.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, or Chair People. For the record, Robert Buckley, Raymond Bronstein. I'm here this evening to give an overview of the proposed text amendment. I'm without Mr. Fremont Smith this evening. He is off sailing in the warm Caribbean. And so I will try to do the best I can. He's much better at entertaining and creative responses than I am, but I will do my best. I just want to do a little preface by saying what you're going to see tonight is the culmination of about a year of work. Once the MBTA zoning was adopted, Nordblom Company, through their land planning group, as well as their professionals, started thinking of possible ways to implement a proposal for the land that was included in the MBTA zoning that they own across the street on Middlesex Turnpike. One thing became very clear early on was that the dimensional aspects of the adopted zoning made it very difficult from an economic standpoint to do much of anything. So the decision was made to go to town meeting to seek some relief on two issues. One is height. It's 35 feet to go to the up to the 80 feet, which is the underlying zoning today. If this was developed as a freestanding office building, that would be the applicable zoning, and as a result, increase the density from 30 units per acre to the 60 units per acre that we're proposing. I will quickly, okay,
That one, this next one.
this one?
This one.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Just as an overview, that Todd always does, which is that this has been, I was saying to Mr. Pearson earlier, that the zoning for Northwest Park was written in 2007, and we're 20 years into it, and it's a very deliberative process. They're very deliberative of what they do and how they do it, because it's a long-term asset for them, and they spend a lot of time trying to make sure they get it right. I certainly don't remember this, but years ago, this was one of the first industrial office parks in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, if not the Northeast, and it's gone through a major transformation to where we are today. Again, if you look at the zoning, 20 years old approximately, it's only half built. I mean, as tenants roll out of other spots on the campus, there'll be some initiatives brought forward for the town's consideration, but it's become a real vibrant and activated area. Some pictures of what's going on in that site. Good mixture of uses and activities. There is extensive walking capabilities there through the landscaping. We now have the pickleball courts, and the last I checked, there have been no fights as to pickleball in the park. So that's a good sign, which I guess are very activated. They're very active in the street art. They've made a commitment over the foreseeable future on an annual basis to add sculptures and art works for the foreseeable future every year to a tune of $20,000 to $25,000 a sculpture. So these will be dispersed throughout the campus. And because of the activity there, that, it attracted the Broad Institute as well as Vericel. This is a picture of the ribbon cutting at the Broad Institute with the governor et al., all the local luminaries and the state. And from a practice standpoint, these are some of the companies, the clusters that have developed in the Northwest Park area that are currently residing there. And when new entities come in, one of the first questions they ask is housing. It's become a critical component for anyone locating a business in a community. They want to know what the housing opportunities are. It becomes the critical component, that and infrastructure. And Burlington was very proactive a few years ago by addressing the infrastructure by going on the NWA water, which really made a big difference. It is still a primarily commercial environment. This is a pie graph showing the various components of the uses. So it's retained its historic character, but supplemented it with the amenities and the activities that attract the businesses here. Todd has figures which we'll do during the public hearing. It's an amazing figure, the number of people who live in the Northwest Park. I'm sorry?
Work in Burlington.
Work in Burlington. It is a very interesting number because it exceeds what one would expect. This is an aerial view of the various entities there. So the importance of this chart is on a tax base. If you look over time, every entity that or initiative that the park has undertaken has essentially resulted in about a 300% increase in tax revenue to the community. The one at the bottom is in red, showing what the current tax realization is on these properties, which is approximately $153,000. And based upon the consultants that were hired, it is projected to go to about $597,000 on 2024 numbers. So again, maintaining that approximately 300+% increase. Back in when the town adopted the MBTA zoning, the properties across the street collectively were included in one of the districts. They're listed here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 is at the corner of Great Meadow Road and Middlesex Turnpike. 2 and 3 are owned by the Nordblum Company. 4 and 5, 4 is a standalone building, 5 is Staples. Just for, excuse me, informational purposes, we have tried to reach out over time with respect to the owners of 1 and 4, and at this point in time, they're not interested in selling for various reasons. They have lease commitments and personal considerations. So when town meeting considered the MBTA zoning, this was taken from your consultant's report showing the massing along Middlesex Turnpike. So we're looking at the 2 middle buildings as the proposed development of the project. This is a street view of what exists today, and when we started this process, I remember saying to Todd, if you were standing at the corner of 3rd Avenue, if you look to the left, you see a vibrant, active community. You turn to the right, and you see buildings that probably 40, 50 years old that just do not respond to the marketplace as it currently exists, and will likely not be developed because, and I don't want to quote figures, but if you looked at some of the values in town, and not just Burlington, but in any major area, the commercial property values are not necessarily holding their own right now, depending upon their use. In some cases, the average buildings in this area that were trading probably 35 to 50% less than they were 4 years ago, which is a little frightening. So these are pictures of the buildings from the exterior. The interior. One of the issues here is that a lot of the interior structures, HVAC, Some of the access points do not comply with current building codes or other accessibility codes, so to reposition these buildings, if you could, would be a substantial cost that no one would want to incur, because there are certainly other opportunities due to vacancies throughout the region. So the properties are likely to stay in their current state for quite some time. Again, some pictures. This is my point. When you were standing at the corner of Third Avenue, if you look across the street, you see the one-story non-responsive buildings. The architects and their consultants did what was called precedent massing. What buildings are around here? How do we integrate a project that would be compatible with the existing structures? Again, across the street, you have Boston Interiors with what's the restaurant?
Bancroft.
Bancroft. And then you have the Archer, which is the structure on the other corner of Third Avenue. This is the existing site plan showing, it's difficult to see here, but there's a tremendous slope from Middlesex Turnpike down to Great Meadow Road, which provides some opportunities from a design standpoint to hide parking and to do some creative things with the site. But again, to retrofit these buildings and have them as a standalone building, or to even develop them into an office complex or an office building, the economics just don't justify it. So the next thing the architects did was start to do some sketches of what the massing would look like, trying to incorporate it, as I said, with the existing structures around. If you look, one of the things that as we listened to what was going on with your zoning on Mall Road, trying to alter the sidewalk structure so that it's not a straight linear sidewalk on a side of a street. So we bent the sidewalk. Some of the ideas started to germinate here. You can see it bends in and brings you into a site, and you know, there's a total different feel to that experience. This is a rendering of what that would look like in a night situation. Again, the massing being compatible with the adjacent properties. There's a drop-off on the back. You'll notice that there's no significant, might be a few parking spaces out front, but all the parking would be underneath the building because of the grades. We can do that. The entrance to the parking would be out front, but you'd essentially go down into a parking, underground parking deck structure. So you'd keep it activated as a street, close to the street, without a parking field. This is one of the things, and I know I'm treading on thin ice when I say this, because the amount of money that was spent here, as Todd would say, what you see is what you're going to get. We've spent a lot of time and money trying to plan this, so if town meeting were to approve this, the architecture, the streetscapes, the lighting there would be a commitment to build it as approved, subject to the usual things that you would do in a site plan review, and you know, the safety and circulation issues. But the intent is to, this picture is not a pretty picture to sway any votes. This is what would be built, because as I said in the beginning, a lot of time and effort was spent to coordinate this with the other surrounding properties. And in some respects, Nordblum over the 20 years has pretty much demonstrated that they build and they spend time and effort to make sure they get it right. Again, another picture. I would like to call
Sorry,
you.
Bob, can you go back one? We're just trying to get a perception.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what angle it's coming from. We're looking.
Well, you're looking down towards Route 62.
Route 62.
Well,
This
going
is the entrance to Third Ave over
third,
this way.
yeah.
So is this Meadow Road at the bottom?
No,
No,
Middle
no,
Road would be on the other
that's the
side.
entrance. That's the driveway to come into the park.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, so Middlesex Turnpike heading north.
Yeah,
Yes.
We're looking at here.
Yeah, right.
And the corner of Meadow Road is going to be up past that.
Way
next
down
one.
this way.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And this is the entrance to Third Ave
Right.
around here.
So
Thank you.
this would be across from the bank property.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
have
okay.
some better pictures.
And that's just a driveway going in, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And this is across the street.
Yeah.
This is from Third Ave looking at it.
So you can start to see one of the things we've been focusing on is the interconnectivity. There's already a pedestrian light on the left there, you can see it. And we'd certainly supplement that with some connections to get people safely across so that it would become almost appendage to the existing Third Avenue. I have better pictures. This is today looking across the street. That exists today, that pedestrian crossing. This is a massing diagram, just a box diagram showing how it would lay out. You could see where the amenities are. You could see, for instance, that the sidewalk, while it's linear to the exterior, but people have the option to walk interior, and I'll show why we did that in a second. You can see we're going to do a connective path that will go down to Great Meadow, right? It winds down there, and halfway down there'll be a seating area or a breakout area because the vista looking out the back is totally different than the other side. Out the back, you're seeing the well fields or the wetlands there, which would be a nice, contrast to the activity on the front side of the building. You now have on the back side of the building a different vista. And why is that important? And I think it was brought up during the town meeting vote for the mall rezoning or the mall area rezoning. Pedestrian interconnectivity is important. So you're going to be able to, if you were to live here, you'd be able to leave, go across the street, and have amenities and access to the T. Or alternatively, you can, in a 5-minute walk, come down the hill, walk along Great Meadow Road, and through the new proposed development activity that's going to occur at Brixmore, the Staples site. And there's also a T connection there that will allow you also to go into I still call it the Sears building. It was narrow and the other amenities. These are some of the things that will be before, if they're, will be built. Tate, Life Alive. These are going to go into the, let me go back. These are going into the Brixmore project, so you'll see those activities right there. Then these are at the Burlington Mall, the old Sears building, automotive. We'll have a full fiscal impact analysis presented as part of the public hearings, but we decided at this point just to give an overview of where we came up with that earlier number. This was based upon the consultants' interviews with various town officials, trying to gauge what the impacts would be, and the net annual positive fiscal impact is estimated to be about $454,000. But all the backup material and the data and where these figures came from clearly would be discussed before town meeting and the planning board, et cetera, during the process. One of the reasons, as I said in the beginning, every time someone comes to my office and they're looking to have a business locate here, the first question is, our employees, will they be able to live here? So if you look at this, hybrid working is the new norm. As a law firm, we can't get our attorneys into the office. We can in Burlington because it's a different environment. But our New York, Chicago, and Boston offices, it becomes a recruiting tool when you're competing for students, law students coming out. You can go work here and they say, I only have to commit 2 or 3 days a week or whatever. But that's the new reality.
Yeah.
The tenants who are here, the commercial tenants, when their leases expire, which people don't realize, that you can drive by a building and see the lights on and say, well, that building's occupied. No, it's not. You may, when their leases expire, they'll probably downsize their space. And there's plenty of space available right now. The lab market is down, although I do think that will come back, except we'll have to see what happens on the federal level. The values have crashed. I mean, I debated long and hard. We have some data that shows buildings that this board and others built and approved and were built in the last 4 or 5 years. You'd be shocked at what the values are today, what they're trading in the marketplace for, what they're on the market for.
So the sale prices, how does that compare to the
If you look,
rents?
You're saying 35 to 50% on the market value.
Yeah, a lot of them, the leases have expired, and there was a lot of vacant space. So you may, an example, you may carry a property, this is without identifying it, on your assessors valuation of 22 million, which comes out to be about $400 a foot on one of these buildings. The price that's getting any play in the marketplace is $120 a foot. So sooner or later, those prices are going to reflect, you know, so what, you know, like the town can make their own decisions, but the thing is to maintain, enhance, and preserve value. And one of the ways you do it is you create an environment where people migrating out of Cambridge, people migrating out of, you know, Boston. I'd live in Burlington, but I don't think I'd survive long. But what do you do to attract them? And that was critical for Broad and others to come here. And for lenders, the capital markets aren't strong right now. Office is a four-letter word. We're asking for an increase in density and an increase in height. And as Todd, if approved, this is the building that they would build. There's a lot of information here, a lot of detail we can get into at the right time. This isn't a public hearing, so I don't want to give testimony per se.
Sure.
But a lot of thought went into this. And I know that when people look at it, they say it's a big number, but the impacts can be managed. I think it will increase the attractiveness of the balance of industrial properties and commercial properties. Some of the research that's going on in some of these buildings that Nordblum and others have is incredible. The UMass Lowell has started their LINK project where they're putting $1 billion into clean tech research. They're going to have a separate campus off of the Lowell campus, and they'll spin off companies. Those companies are going to be looking for people or places to reside. You want to position the town to grab as much as they can, because frankly, other than Lowell, you're the only, you're the other end of I always refer to it as the barbell, the strength. You have Lowell with all their amenities, and you have Burlington, which is the other, which has all of the positive, retail, commercial, recreational, open space, that has a lot of activities here. So you want to preserve that reputation, and this is an attempt to do so.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Great, thank you very much. Staff, any comments?
I'm going to defer to the planning director who's online.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. From a planning perspective and from staff perspective, we have been in touch with the proponents, and we have, again, been in contact. So some of the things that we have asked of the proponent is thinking about by right versus special permit. This is definitely an increase in the units per acre. Height, and then they are proposing to increase the units, required parking per unit. And then we get into impervious surface area that also becomes an issue right now. So we would have to definitely work that out. I can tell you that we on the staff side, we are working with them, with Economic Development Department. This is not a shock. I think town meeting definitely, when the MBTA communities came in and when we proposed it, I think town meeting definitely, consented to having housing potentially in this area. And so, we have that, but I think that there's still some things that need to be worked out, and we are in the process of doing that. So with that, that's all I really have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, I can
Yes.
respond just for the public.
Okay.
Those are all issues we have discussed with Liz and Caleb, and I think we will.
That's true.
We will be able to address all of them, so.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's
Okay,
true. Yep.
thank you. Let's start with the planning, planning members here. Mr. Impember, would you like to go first? You're all set? Let's move over to Ms. LaRue.
I have many thoughts.
Okay.
And some questions. I'm concerned about the increase in density. When we went to town meeting for the MBTA communities bylaw, it was hotly debated. And one of the things that we talked about was how many units could be built on these pieces of property. And this is 3 times the amount we said could be built on these 2 pieces of property. So I'm very apprehensive about that. So that's my first comment. I also think we need to consider that if we change the zoning for these 2 pieces of property, we should expect that the other pieces of property in this zone will ask for the same. We cannot expect that lots 1 and 4 and 5 aren't going to want just as much density as these 2, so we need to consider them as a whole. Question, what is the density at Lifetime and Tremont, and I forget the name of the other one next to Huntington, thank you. What is the density there?
You have, on average, 180 units on,
I have to look it up.
You don't have to
Well,
answer
why
now,
don't we-
we
why
can
don't
get
that
that.
question for next
We can
time.
get that,
Yep.
that's fine.
Yep, or let the applicant get that, so.
Yes, that we don't need to answer
But
that right now.
that's a question to be answered.
Right. I personally have heard some negative reactions to the Lifetime Fitness building. I never hear anything about Tremont and Huntington, and I think the reason for that is because they're set back and they're not as noticeable to the public as they drive down Middlesex Turnpike. This is going to be very noticeable, very close to the street, so we need to think about that. How many units in total was this going to be?
it'll be about 197 to 200.
And you have 3 acres? Or is it more than 3
I
acres?
think it's more than 3.
Okay, all right,
Did you say 197 to 300?
No, to 200.
200, thank you.
to 200. And
Thank
so I'm concerned about the height, the change in the height, because the change in the height is more than twice as high as what we had originally intended. I'm concerned about the increase in pervious surface. I'm worried about all of this. I don't want to be negative. I love the pictures, they're lovely. But this is very different than what we presented to town meeting when they took their vote, and that concerns me. And then one last thing that I would mention, when the Economic Development Director presented the mixed-use district to town meeting, which was very well received, one of the things they talked a lot about were public amenities. And I'd like your client to think a little bit about what public amenities might be offered. You know, you have that walkway that's going to go down to Meadow Road. Maybe you have a little river walk that goes in. That's a lovely piece of property, and there's beautiful wildlife and things in there. So it's just something to think about, sort of a way to make this more attractive, because right now, I'm not feeling it. One last question, one last thing, I just wanted to talk a little bit, that one of the things we'll have to address if this moves forward is the safety of crossing Middlesex Turnpike. I know there is that crossing there. I've never actually seen anyone use it. It's kind of scary, and we would need to
Is it
find.
scary going across, or scary, what do you do when you get across? What's over there?
Exactly, right, both. But we would have to find a way to make that safe, because people do drive way too fast there, and they're not used to seeing a crosswalk there. Well, it's there, but they're not used to stopping for it. They're not used to seeing anyone in the crosswalk. So let me just see, I think those were all my things for now. Yes, that's all I have for
Again,
now.
Mr. Chairman, I think we'll be able to address all of them.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, we're making a list. Mr. Covino?
Sure, thank you. The gross revenue figure that you provided, 500 and something thousand, is that just from taxes?
That's just from taxes.
Just from taxes,
It
okay.
doesn't include the one-time fees that you'd have through building, which we estimate, I think it's 700,000. But, you know, we'll have a full fiscal impact report as part of the public hearing.
Okay. If in fact, yeah, no matter what the planning board recommends to town meeting, this is going to be town meeting's decision.
Right.
If in fact town meeting says yes, that would put quite a few residential units under the control ownership of Nordblum. And the last figure that I heard from Todd was on the Tremont and the Huntington was 50% of those people actually work in Burlington. Now, I would expect Nordblum to figure out a way to get them from using their cars to get to work in Burlington. In other words, is there going to be a continuous shuttle? That's one way, obviously expensive, but because it doesn't, if they work in Burlington and they live in Burlington, but they still have to use their car to get to work,
Yeah.
that doesn't work.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things we're focusing on. To the extent you can bring people, even if you reduce, the
25%,
yeah,
whatever,
anything over 5% is deemed extraordinary, but Burlington's way ahead of that area. But no, that's one of the advantages that we have in having a massing issue here, because we're still trying to attract the places of employment, the clusters that will be the centers of employment. But all legitimate points. I think we are going to focus on the transportation aspect. The transportation is being focused on both locally and regionally to try to enhance that, so.
Okay, great.
And my final question, did you consider taking these parcels and folding them into the PDD and going that way, or did you?
The problem, we did. We spent a lot of time considering that. The problem with that is you're bisected by a roadway, and the PDD has aggregate limitations based upon the massing of the land. And the level of confusion in terms of FAR or drainage recharge, I mean, how do you calculate all that when you have a separate parcel and it's divided by a public roadway of that magnitude?
So the hurdles are too.
Well, you could get there, it's just that I think that by the time you got there, people would be so confused of what you're trying to do. Here, it's just two changes. Height, and the height translates into density. And the height is the same height that if you use the underlying zoning and if you could build an office building or whatever there, it'd be the same height.
And if, I know in these uncertain economic times, who knows what's going to happen, but you'd be taking some industrial parcels and converting them to the residential tax rate.
Yeah, but you saw that tax.
I know today that is in fact the case. Hopefully 10 years down the road, it won't still be.
Can I comment on that? Because a lot of people, that equation, let's say you're right, it takes 10 years or some unique use to come to make those buildings viable again, all right? Those 10 years, let's assume that you had, the delta between tax revenue is $400,000. That's $4 million that you will never get back. You'll never catch up. You know that, because when you use it, the delta is about 400,000 every year if you, under residential. Even though they're taxed residentially, it still is a delta that is far superior to what you have today. And if you wait 10 years, 400,000 over 10 years is 4 million. Is that right? 4 million? That never is recaptured. It's not like an IRA where you have a catch-up provision where when you get over 55 you can catch up. You can't catch up. So, but it's a legitimate point, and we have to explain that and show that from a fiscal standpoint, this would be better. And it's also better in the sense that it becomes a magnet for companies who want to come here and take some of the not deteriorating, that's too strong a word, the unresponsive property and reposition it, because you have the critical component, you have employees that can live nearby.
Yeah, we just have to make sure they're going to have some place to work.
Right, that's right. And
We
that's
can't
what,
turn everything into residential. is what
right,
I'm saying.
no, I agree with that too, but as we showed earlier, the pie chart, roughly 2/3 still, or almost 3/4 would be remain commercially oriented.
Yeah.
But it's a legitimate and it is a critical component. What you're trying to do here is create the magnet so those companies will want to be here. You know, the Broad came here because you had the amenities, you had the housing, and it was, you could convince talented employees to say, I could live there. And then you have all the town services that are additive to that. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start online with Ms. Natola.
Let me send her a request on
Thank you.
There you go, Tony. It should pop up on your screen.
I'm all set right now.
Thank you, Ms. Natola. Ms. Rappaport.
Same thing to you, Brenda. Request on, it's been sent.
Thank you. I'll mirror a lot of the things that Barbara had said. You know, I think that we've done and approved a lot of zoning changes, 3 times what we originally anticipated for this property is pretty extreme. I appreciate all of the contributions that you've made towards the community, but when we talk about, you know, adding that much housing, the infrastructure, I'm concerned our infrastructure just can't support it with all the other zoning changes. We still haven't even built phase 2 of Lifetime. Then we have, you know, the Mall Road zoning changes. We've got a lot ahead of us. That I think that there's a lot more concerns that need to be addressed at this time. And that's all I have for right now, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rappaport. I had a couple of comments. The first comment was that said you've been working on this for a year. We ultimately adopted this September town meeting, is that correct? Right?
I can't remember if it was May or September.
Was it May?
Okay.
Okay, it was in May, because,
Somebody said September, I don't know which one.
so when we did this, because I was on the committee for this, these were kind of extra units that weren't necessarily covered, and it was, you know, not necessarily 100% sure we want to include them here on the MBTA communities. And I think, Ms. LaRue, you indicated that to be compliant to that, there's a certain density which we met, and now to double it, well, yeah, from the density standpoint, that it's setting a precedent, and, you know, the other, not only the other buildings in that stretch, but all the other parcels for the MBTA community, I would imagine, if I were them, to say, well, you know, let's increase the density the same, so it's more viable there to do some tear downs in areas where we weren't intending for that. For example, Lloyd Barron and things like that, we said that should stay there with that density, because there's a certain component of the population that would live there for a diversity standpoint. So, yeah, I think, I know we're just limiting it to these 2, but again, that wasn't the intent of the MBTA communities when we initially sent this out. My question would be, did Noblum own these properties prior to the MBTA community adoption?
well, they've had, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And do we have, currently, do we have any buildings in town that have the density that you're looking for from an apartment building standpoint? You don't need to answer that now.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And so from the height of the buildings where you're looking for 80 feet maximum, would that be on this particular site because of the elevation from the bottom of Great Meadow Road up to the top, or is that?
It's an average, because you measure height by the average around the building, and the backside drops off.
And is that considered underground parking also included in that elevation, do you know?
It probably, I think it is, because it would be visible from the back.
The back, so the top part, if we look at the rendering from the top part, that may be only another, I don't know, maybe.
We'll have the exact.
Kim, the numbers, okay, thank you. So when you showed there that it was a nice path from Middlesex Turnpike going around and taking a little stop to overlook the great, I think they call that the Great Meadow. Barbara, you can see it from your house.
They do indeed.
In my parents' house. So you can see that, which is a beautiful view. It's very nice. And then there's the path that goes all the way down to Meadow Road and shoots across, but there's no sidewalk down there.
There's a side, not at that junction.
Right.
We would expect that that would be addressed.
Okay, great, thank you. Percent affordable, what's your target for that?
Under the MBTA, I think it's, as drafted, it's 10%. You can't go above that.
10%.
Can't go above 10%?
Not under the MBTA.
Staff,
I wasn't-
maybe.
So I
can
can,
talk about
I
that.
can
Thank you.
speak to that, so that may be true in other communities, so, our inclusionary zoning bylaw, which is 15%, does apply to, our MBTA community zoning overlay, because, we have, submitted a report to the state, indicating that the market in our, community would still make, having that 15% affordable a viable project for any developer.
Okay.
So, the minimum is 15.
Thank you.
So if
Okay.
it gets approved, then that would be what we'd have to comply with.
Okay, thank you. We've had the applicant come before us a number of times, and we know that the lifetime is not fully built out, but there's a desire for the applicant to build, I think they were indicating 300 more units on that site. With the 197 to 200 units, is that contributing to that 300, or would they still be the thought of another 300 being at Northwest Park?
Lifetime residential, I think, is 180-something. And then they have another, whatever, 120, 130 that they could do in Phase 2. The reason they can't do Phase 2 is you have a long-term lease to a,
No, I'm not talking about lifetime, I'm talking in addition to that, the applicant had indicated they wanted another 300 units on that property in addition to lifetime. No? They're stopping at lifetime and that's it? Okay, good. Okay. All right, perfect. And a question I have on the property taxes. So the property taxes for a rental unit is just the property itself. Is there any way to, does it get taxed with the income that's made on the rental? You know, so they're making money on the rental, and is that,
it's taxed, that does factor into the value of the
right,
of the unit, of the building. But it's taxed at the residential rate, and that's state law.
yeah, that's unfortunate. Because, I mean, the income they're making so very high on the rentals these days is just, if there was an income tax on what they're,
That contributes to the value that the tax can apply.
from a residential standpoint, which is, and rentals are different than kind of ownership, is that correct then? Okay.
Yeah.
Probably not, so you're not getting that, the commercial. Okay, that's what I had. So maybe we'll go over to land use, Mr. Woodella. Any comments?
Dave Woodella, Chair of the Land Use Committee. Just maybe some clarification here. So I think Bill asked and you answered that Nordblum owned the properties ahead of the MBTA Act.
Right.
Okay. Did the town approach you as property owners about the MBTA?
I don't recall that happening. No.
Maybe we can add staff.
Yeah, maybe.
Comment on that. Liz, did we approach Noblum on the MBTA communities for those two
I
properties?
think, so I'm pretty sure that we did send out letters to everybody who was included in the MBTA communities. And we used our assessor's database for all of the addresses. So when we said, this was going out, we did, this is happening, we did let property owners know about it. So it wasn't, I didn't make a direct phone call to every single property owner, but we did notify them.
Thank you.
But
Okay,
just-
so-
could I do not believe that Nordblum solicited to have their property included.
No, they did not.
No, that wasn't my question, but you were aware that the MBTA Communities Act was happening. You guys are a pretty on-the-ball resident of the town, and you knew these properties were being included in this activity. Did you oppose the zoning at the time of the MBTA Communities Act? Right, you were notified, either directly or indirectly.
No, because it was an overlay, so you don't lose your underlying zoning. It's just an overlay. You can choose not to use the overlay. So the underlying zoning stays in place.
Yeah.
So you put the overlay, the MBTA is an overlay on it. So if you decide you're not going to use the overlay, you don't use it. You have what you have on the underlying zoning.
Okay, all right. So you knew that this was coming. It was going to be a little bit more, it allowed you some residential where
Yep.
before you didn't have residential, and you didn't oppose that, but now you're coming for, you want more. Okay,
Okay,
all right, understood. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else from land use?
Hello, my name is Monty Pearson. I'm a member of the Land Use Committee, and I'm a town meeting member from Precinct 3. I would like to step back for just a second and make a comment about this process, because what we're seeing and the negotiations that are going on here are exactly what was envisioned when we took on the process of doing this. And what we're talking about doing is we're talking about taking a town asset that in the 70s was zoned as an area outside of the residential area that would provide a business economic base for the town. And I think what we're seeing now is that in order for that successful formula to continue, there needs to be an ability of developers to be able to envision how to successfully take properties that are no longer commercially competitive, and for them to be able to take those properties and enhance their value. And that's what this project is envisioned. And there are a lot of details that need to be worked out that I don't want to comment on right now. But I think that what we're going to see is that the zoning that we passed is a roadmap to the future, because these kinds of discussions are now going to go on for the next 10, 20 years and are going to actually shape the commercial and property tax base of the town. Because already within like 6 months or so of a town meeting passing this, we've got a proposal that couldn't have happened without this kind of zoning. And I think that this is a really good thing to be doing now, because we don't want to be at the back end of a cycle where we have a lot of deteriorating properties and we can't figure out how to fix them. And we want to be in a front so that we have this kind of activity being attractive to people, because this kind of development is what is going to pay for the amenities that the town has, like, for example, school buildings and other things. So I don't think that the property tax question is an incidental aspect here. The town needs to be able to continue to generate growth in one way or another, and I think that this process is a really excellent thing. So I just want to say that Land Use Committee and the people who in town meeting who passed this zoning wanted you folks to be wrestling with these kind of issues about the future. And so I'm glad to see this happening. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. So we have zoning bylaw review committee. Unless there's somebody else here, I think we're all set with land use. Ms. Ellis, please.
Thank you. Sherry Ellis from the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee. Not a question that necessarily needs to be answered tonight, addressed tonight, but in the backup material and part of the presentation was talk of a passive house design. And that's not a cheap process, and I want to know how that's going to affect the affordability of these units. And I don't know if that's
Sherry,
something.
could you repeat?
What kind of design?
None of us understood what you said. What kind of design?
Oh, I'm sorry, passive house.
Passive house design.
Yes.
Passive house.
So net zero, passive house.
Oh.
Passive house is one step further than net zero.
Okay.
And that's a fairly expensive, foray to go into. So how is that going to affect, to me, that, in my limited knowledge, is going to make these units very expensive. And so how's that going to help the affordability of these units? And that's something, we don't necessarily need to get into it tonight, but just a thought process going forward.
Okay, thank you.
So, may I,
Go ahead.
is that what your client is proposing?
Passive house is the net zero is being discussed in every community that you do work in. And
But is that what they're proposing here?
I don't know it as
Okay.
passive house, I know it as net zero.
Net
Okay.
zero.
That they are going in that direction. I've heard the architects and the engineers talking about, because of state law, by 2030 something, and just the way they do it, they want to focus on the net zero template. Whether that is, if a passive house goes beyond that, I'll ask them, and I know that they've been discussing this, but I don't know the particulars. And that's one of the reasons, and Sherry is correct, it's expensive. That's why to do those types of things, you've got to have a certain critical mass.
And I think to Ms. Ellis's point, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Ellis, is that it's the affordability, not necessarily the 15%, but the general affordability of the units would be something that would not be for kind of regular Burlington folks unless the demographic changes considerably. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, in general, and to the point of the 15% versus the 10%, to make something economically viable to build the project, and if it's going to be this passive house, that's going to affect something and how those units are priced. And we have a lot of expensive, whether they're apartments or I'm assuming that's what they'll be, but you can't determine that by zoning. So whether it's apartments or if it could be condoized, still those are going to be very expensive units. And again, we're not going to be downsizing to those from Burlington folks trying to. So the chain of housing breaks if you don't have affordable units for people to downsize to or first-time home buyers to come into.
Thank you. Yeah, that's why we got our middle housing in the past.
And so, if these apartments are offered at a premium because they are net zero apartments and for other reasons, the affordable units that are in those apartment buildings, is that a percentage of, no, how does that work?
Well, to count them, the affordability quotient is based upon income.
Right,
Yeah.
I know, but, so,
Yeah, it's not off the rent, and the rent will be determined by the market. It has nothing to do with the
right, but
quality.
if the rent of the building, if all the units in that building are, say, instead of $3,000 a month that somebody might be paying somewhere else in Burlington, if these ones are $5,000 a month, then the affordable units in that building would necessarily be higher than those in the,
No, it's based upon income.
Based on
To
income.
qualify,
Yep.
it's based,
Hold on a second, Monty.
yeah, it has nothing to do with the value
on.
of the cost of the unit,
Yep.
it's the income of the person.
The income is how you're qualified,
And that's how
and
the
it
rent is
determines what you
calculated.
pay.
That's how the rent's- okay.
Thank you.
Yep, Monty, come on up.
I have a little bit of experience in this because I am involved in some environmental organizations now and worked at a CDC in the past. And the cost of a whole house design is not anywhere near as great as people are thinking about it. It may be an increase of 5% on the cost of it, not an increase of like 20% or something like that. And you have to realize that what happens is that if you have a whole house design, then what you have is you have a lot of solar energy, wind energy, that kind of stuff. And so the operating costs for the units go down as well. And so those whole house costs, which are more in front, get paid off in a certain amount of time. Just like, for example, the geothermal that's being used at the new elementary school is going to be paid off in 8 years.
Okay.
The whole house thing will be paid off in the same way.
Thank you, Ms.
Monty.
Pearson. Perfect expertise there. Let's go over to some more folks from ZBRC. Any other comments from that? Sherry, if you see any of the folks that want to raise their hand? No? Okay, thank you. Seeing none. Let's go, this is, again, this is just for discussion purposes, no,
So, do you want a motion?
I will take a motion, yep. We'll
Mr.
go for the
Chair?
public hearing will be next meeting.
Right, so I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to a public hearing at the planning board meeting of March 20th, 2025.
Second.
Gaffney.
Yes.
LaRue.
Yes.
Impemba.
Yes.
Cavino.
Yes.
Rappaport.
Yes.
Natola.
Yes.
Great, thanks, everyone, very interesting.
Thank you very much. I tried to be as good as Todd. I tried.
You did a good job. We'll tell Todd you did him proud.
Okay, thank you. Okay, items 1C, discussion purpose, oh, is this, yeah, we're still going, yep. This is still the combined meeting. 1C is a discussion for the zoning use table amendments. And this is staff to comment.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an amendment, again, kind of like a housekeeping amendment, but kind of cleans some stuff up and helps with, I think, implementation and kind of addressing some kind of unforeseen items that we need to take care of. So this is an update to the use table. And so I'm going to try and make it as big as possible for you guys. And so some of this amends the mixed district. And most of the changes to the mixed district that we're proposing in the planning office have to do with traffic and circulation and safety of traffic and circulation. And so that's the majority. So hotels, it's not so much the hotel itself, but, if you have a hotel with a conference center, parking becomes a hot topic. At One Mall Road, when we permitted the lab space there, it was really tight, and they did do a lot of work to make sure that, they could meet the parking requirements for the big ballrooms over at the Marriott. Instead of it having a yes, so that somebody could go in by right, it would be a special permit so that we would be able to have a little bit more scrutiny, and then also something would be recorded at the registry, so it just, keeps us a little safer from lawsuits. Same thing with the performance theater or center. The next things, we had to, personal services, we made a yes. For whatever reason, personal services were a special permit in the Aquifer and Water Resource District. I don't see why a hair salon would need to get a special permit to go into the mall or to go, so I don't know why that was. So we're correcting that. A supermarket, again, super heavy, traffic and turnover user. You have carts, you have deliveries. Supermarkets are generally larger, so again, I think a little more scrutiny is needed. Restaurants, similar. We've had issues with valets in the past and dealing with those. But also, when you start, it goes through the full process and kind of making sure that the parking and the seating and everything comes together. And again, it gives us a little bit more control in that. The next one, it looks, is kind of something that I've been speaking with Christine Mathis, our environmental engineer, for a while. Every time she sees generation or storage of hazardous waste, or VSQG, she says, so redundant, why do we do this? So I am taking a cue from her. So to her, these VSQG items are kind of a relic of the past. It's really not how the Board of Health or anybody really reviews hazardous waste anymore. Those thresholds don't really matter. So what we have done, and what she really cares about, is the total amount of hazardous materials and waste on a site at any time. And they go out and they do monitoring on those, and they get reports, and they go out and visit and do site visits. They do a great job. And so what we have done is we've kind of gotten rid of these two, the VSQG like excess volumes of a small quantity or classified as a very small quantity, and just added generation to this top use. Because again, she just looks at the overall picture. She doesn't really get into VSQG or SQG or any of those things. She likes to look at holistically. Next, again, swimming pools in the mixed district. So, swimming pools are a yes in RO because, your pool at home in your backyard is up to you and is up to you to maintain. Swimming pools in all the other districts would be considered like public pools. And so a little bit more scrutiny on those and chemical storage and all that type of thing. So we opted to make that, again, back to a special permit. The other thing, again, with restaurants and food, special permit for a food hall or public market. This would be the kind of thing like we have at the food court, where the food court has its own special permit for all users and a certain amount of tables and a certain amount of seats, and they get one, and we know who the general operator is, and then that general operator can bring in different vendors to fill the different slots in the food hall or public market. So it would be one of those situations where you go in, you get a special permit, town would know really who to contact, who's the person, who's the manager there, if anything happens or goes awry. And so we opted for that. We also cleaned things up in the Aquifer and Water Resources District. A food hall or public market wouldn't have been allowed because the mall is in the Aquifer Water Resources District. So you needed to make it a special permit there so that you could actually have one. Otherwise, the mixed district wouldn't really be able to even have it because that's the overlay it's in. Similar with the mobile food market and vendor court, it's a no in the Aquifer district. Most of the malls in the Aquifer district fixed that because it's something we really want to see. It's a really cool use. Same thing with Parklet and same thing with outdoor merchandise display. So just kind of cleaning things up, traffic circulation, want to make sure that, we have more oversight with regards to traffic and circulation. That is, again, a special permit criteria that everybody has to kind of meet the threshold of when we approve special permits. So this is just, making sure that kind of we can request everything that we need to ensure that these uses will be operating safely and successfully. The other thing I want to make note is, while it sounds scary, special permit, I cannot remember the last time that this body ever denied a special permit. We always seem to work it out. And that's always my goal, to make it work. So with that, Mr. Chair, I yield my time.
Mr. Chairman, may I make
Thank
one
you. Go
more
ahead,
addition
yes.
to that? On top of what Liz was going over in that use table, you can also see the IR has been.
Yes.
even
Oh,
brought
that's
down.
right.
Yeah.
So just kind of as you're going through that, if you remember last year, I can't remember which town meeting it was, that the property owner approached us and rezoned the final IR parcel, which at the time we went through the full discussion of, it's kind of an outdated use for a zoning district. So this is the first step of removing from the zoning table, and you'll see kind of in the future when we fully remove it, but this is the first step.
Yep, yeah, so that doesn't, no longer, there's no partial set.
Yep, and it makes it easier when we're looking through our zoning table and
Right.
making sure we're looking at the right one, that why have a
An IR ordinance.
zone that's, doesn't really exist.
Okay, great. So let's start, let's go with the folks here in the planning board, and we'll start with Ms. LaRue.
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Covino.
No questions, appear just to be housekeeping.
Yep. Mr. Impemba. Okay, we'll go over to our online planning board members. Ms. Rappaport.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Natola?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just one comment I had with regard to the hazardous waste, looking into that a little bit more detail. It's not a question, small, the small amount, like a small generator or something. So I think the health department is looking for any hazardous waste, which I think as we get into kind of the biotech technology, hazardous waste, even in small amounts, can really make an impact. So notification of that, I think, is important. We'll go over to land use. Mr. Waddell, no comments. Okay, Monty, no comments. We'll go over to zoning bylaw review committee. Any hands up for that?
Let's see. Sherry has her hand up.
Ms. Ellis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sharon Ellis from CBRC. Just a question regarding removal of the IR district. Is there a reason you're only removing it in these three little sections, and how will that work with the rest of the entire table?
Okay, so I can answer that. So I am not. And if you look at the, I skipped over this. This is on me. In the motion for town meeting, it will be to remove the entirety of the zoning district from the table in the aforementioned. Yeah, so it's in the motion. You will be voting on removing it from the entire use table. But as you recall, when we did the use table updates in the past, seeing the entire use table and taking it in is, it's a little intimidating. So I opted to keep it focused and then add it to the motion. So it will be removed from the entire table.
Then, if that's the case, the wording will change, correct? Because right now it's worded as that you're only going to remove it from these sections.
Okay, I will change the word if that's confusing. That was not my intent.
Okay. Yeah, the wording just says you're removing it in those sections.
Okay, I will work on that wording. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else from ZBRC?
I am not seeing any hands raised online, no.
Okay. Bless you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to a public hearing at the planning board meeting of March 20th, 2025.
Second,
Gaffney.
Yes.
LaRue.
Yes.
Impemba.
Yes.
Cavino.
Yes.
Rappaport.
Yes.
Natola.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So this concludes the joint meeting of the Planning Board, Land Use Committee, and Zoning Bylaw Review Committee. From here, we'll begin our regularly scheduled Planning Board meeting. Folks, thank you very much for attending.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the joint meeting of the Planning Board, Land Use Committee, and Zoning Bylaw Review Committee.
second,
Gaffney.
Yes.
LaRue.
Yes.
Impemba.
Yes.
Cavino.
Yes.
Rappaport.
Yes.
Natola.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to make a motion to call to order the meeting of the Planning Board.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Gaffney.
Yes.
LaRue.
Yes.
Impemba.
Yes.
Cavino.
Sure.
Rappaport.
Yep.
Natola.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, as part of the Planning Board meeting, we have public participation. Is there anyone in the audience or online who is here to speak on an item that is not currently on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, none here and seeing none online. Announcements.
The Burlington High School Building Committee will be meeting next Thursday, March 13th at 6:30 PM, and that will be at the high school committee room and over WebEx. And we want to offer our condolences to Tony Faria.
Okay, any comments?
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rowe.
So Tony Faria lived and worked in Burlington and raised 6 children here. She was a very active member of this community. She worked in the Selectman's office. She served on the Garden Club and on the Historical Commission. She was part of the revamping of Grandview Farm, and she helped organize our town's 175th and 200th year anniversary. She even wrote and published a book about the Burlington Fire Department.
Ah,
Yes.
great.
On a more personal note, Tony was a wonderful friend to everyone she met. She was warm and funny and kind, and we want to offer our condolences to her family. She passed away this past week at the age of 93.
Fantastic. Any other comments from board members? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to comment personally, and I had the opportunity to work with her on the Board of Selectmen for 15 years, and I just absolutely loved her. She loved the town. She was just a doll to work with, and I can't say enough about her. She was, and she loved the history of the town and was all about it. So it's a big loss for the town of Burlington.
A wonderful, wonderful lady.
Thank you, Mr. Impemba. Okay, any other
yes.
comments?
Yes, I had a happier announcement to make. On behalf of the planning board, I want to wish a very happy 92nd birthday to our friend Paul Raymond, who served on this board for decades and served the town of Burlington for almost 50 years. We had a little celebration today with a cake, and Paul asked me to let you all know that he wishes us well and that we should keep up the good work.
Here, here. West, best of luck to Paul.
Happy birthday, Paul.
92.
92.
A young 92 for
Yes.
Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you, great comments. Legal notice of interest, we don't see any non-approvals. There's a let's see, 6A, it's an application for endorsement of a plan believed not to require approval. 1 Dolores Drive. Robert W. Murray is the applicant. Do we have someone here? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thomas Murphy here for the applicant. As you read, it's an A&R application, fairly straightforward. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions or concerns the board might have, but this is a single-family lot on
Dolores.
Dolores, and he's reconfiguring the lot a little bit. If you look at the proposed plan, there's space towards the back of it, which are essentially new parcels that are being created that aren't buildable and are noted as such, that might come into play somewhere down the road for other properties. But the lot that the lot that's going to be built on here on Dolores is replacing a house that's been there for a long time, and it was an oversized lot, so he's kind of shrinking that down, rebuilding that house. There's adjacent land to the back parts of these lots, which is a subdivision that my client had approved several years ago that has not started building yet. I think the plan is at some point to incorporate those into that, but there was some conditions put on that approval, as I understand it, that has to go through this board to modify that, which he plans to do at some point, but he wanted to just get going and rebuilding this new house on Dolores. So he decided to do the A&R to get that lot up and going. The rest of it will be addressed in due course.
Mr. Murphy, what was the name of that development that, do you recall? Patricia Way or something? Yeah.
Patricia Way.
Where is
Okay.
Dolores Drive?
Dolores is,
I can pull it up.
Thank
yeah,
you.
one
I'm just
yeah, I
curious.
can describe it to you, yeah.
It's,
Not easy to get to.
And Liz is raising her hand as well, just to let you know.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Patricia Way. It's a 5-lot subdivision, and
Okay,
the first lot on Patricia Way is over 200 feet long, but not very deep. Potentially, you can put some of these 2 lots that onto those and reconfigure that a bit, make it look more of make the first 2 lots on Patricia look more like a conventional lot with 100 feet of frontage and 200 feet of depth.
okay.
But again, there's a process that will have to be taken at that time, and so once he gets to the point where he's ready to start that process, then we'll be back before you, I'm sure, but in the meantime, he just wanted to get going on the A&R lot.
Yes, Liz?
Sure. So I can provide a little bit of background for this. So as you recall, I think a few years ago, this board approved the Patricia Way subdivision. You can see it on the screen right here, right off of Taylor Ave. And in the subdivision decision, we always, and on the subdivision plan, we always specify the number of lots that are proposed to be built as part of each subdivision. I believe that, by reconfiguring these lots, I believe that there is a way to achieve another lot on this subdivision, and it actually does kind of clean it up, clean everything up, and they have the frontage, and but in order for that to happen, the applicant would need to come back to us for a minor engineering change to the subdivision. And so for now, they've opted to just kind of reconfigure this lot on Dolores so they can build a new home. But I do expect down the road that we will see an amendment or a minor engineering change to the Patricia Way definitive subdivision to add another lot. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, so yeah, just for folks, Dolores, is going to be north of Cambridge Street, right?
Yep, this is,
It's
this is
gonna
it,
be-
kind of as you move down Kinney Ave,
Okay.
Scott Ave, that, if you can see my cursor here,
Yep.
this is Cambridge Street right here.
Yep.
You'd actually access it from Nelson Road.
Maryvale?
It's off of Nelson.
Off of Nelson.
You go off of Nelson.
You take a
and-
right in and
Okay,
it scoots up
okay.
and around.
Exactly.
Past Nelson, that's right.
Thank you.
Take a right off of Nelson, that's right. Okay, great. We'll go, yep. So we want to, any comments from members of the board here? We'll start with Mr. Covino.
No, all set, thank you.
Ms. LaRue. Mr. Impemba?
Good.
Ms. Natola? Any comments? No? We'll say Ms. Rappaport, any
I'm
comments?
all set.
Would you like a motion?
Yep, okay, yeah, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve and sign the approval not required plan entitled Approval Not Required Plan of Land 1 Dolores Drive, Lot 50 in Burlington, Middlesex County, Massachusetts, prepared by Commonwealth Engineering Incorporated, dated February 26, 2025, reflecting the modification of a lot line on Assessor's Map 17, Parcel 64.
Second.
Gaffney,
Yes.
LaRue,
Yes?
Impemba,
Yes.
Covino,
Yes.
Rappaport,
Okay,
and Natola.
okay,
Yes.
great. I thank you. That's 6-0. Let's go to, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
5, 2, 4, 5. Yeah, 5, no.
Yeah.
Sorry, 5-0. Let's go to administrative matters. We have 7A is a discussion, a request for approval of a minor engineering change, 75 Middlesex Turnpike, Burlington Mall, Bellwether Properties of Mass and Burlington S&S LLC is the applicant.
Good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Chairman and members of the board. For the record, Attorney Mark Vaughn with the law firm of Reamer Bronstein here tonight representing the petitioner of Bellwether Properties, also known as Simon Property, the owner of the Burlington Mall. With me tonight is Melissa Wicker, who is the new general manager for the Burlington Mall. If you recall, Melissa has succeeded Justin Feldhaus, who was the general manager for a period of years, and Melissa is new to the community, not new to the retail industry. She's been with Simon a number of years in another location out of state, but she has taken the position and wanted to have a name with a face for her, and I'm sure you'll be seeing more of her in the months and years to come. Also a resident of Burlington now, too, recently having purchased a home, so.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So we are here in connection with a minor engineering change that's been filed for the property, really to formalize the installation of what they have for a salt shed that is out the perimeter of the parking lot. This is a location that's the perimeter of the lot tucked up against Middlesex Turnpike, which really isn't visible at all from Middlesex Turnpike because of the grade differential, which is rather significant in that area. But based on discussions that Simon has had in the past with Conservation Commission, we wanted to be able to provide an enclosed structure for their sand, de-icing chemicals and things that are used for the winter months. So there is a concrete block perimeter that's been constructed for it, as well as a roof that is over it as well. It's a steel and tarp structure that is on there today. And there's also going to be some new fence that's installed around it as well. I know we shared the rendering with Caleb if the board wanted to see it, but we show on the plan where that fence would be, but it would surround the salt shed to secure access to it. So we've modified the site plan as well to just show that there were a few parking spaces that would be technically removed in order to keep that there. But the parking for the overall mall is well in compliance, even with those spaces not being utilized or available. So if you've been out to the site, you probably have seen maybe this as well. There is some construction apparatus that's out there as well. I think the mall as a policy keeps that machinery there so that they can be quick to react. Obviously, the safety of their patrons is of the utmost importance for the mall campus, and obviously, they've got a couple of steep driveways, too, coming down from Middlesex Turnpike. So whereas it's raining right now, I think 3 nights ago, this easily could have been snow and ice. So I think they keep that there just to be able to quickly react. But I think that those machines are going to be removed and probably, well, maybe monitor the weather and see what's ahead. But with that, I don't really have much more to add. It's, just something that we're looking to formalize after discussions with conservation as well as planning staff. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. We'll
Thanks.
start with Mr. Impemba.
No, I think I'm good with that. One quick question, I don't know if you offhand know, I know we had approved a bunch of, it's unrelated to this, but maybe I should wait to ask her, but
Good.
charging stations. Are there any Tesla charging stations?
There's 12 of them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, they were.
Are they all, they're not all, no, because some of them are multi,
The ones that
Tell us the
are
ones
right near there.
the
are all
ones that are
Tesla.
on the ones that are, right, that are on the Middlesex Turnpike side.
These are just, I would say,
Mall Road side.
no, these Tesla ones are right, kind of very close to where we're talking about,
Perpendicular to the old Sears building.
yeah, right outside the old Sears.
If you look at the site plan over here, they're,
But on this side
Over
of
on the
Sears
mall.
building.
Right.
But not on the
Yeah.
Mall Road side.
Right, right.
But
That's
if
where
you
they
see
are.
where the red
Those
line is
ones are all
here.
Maybe we can-
Tesla.
maybe we can
I
show-
think there are 12.
Yeah, I mean, just both on the submitted site plan that this kind of, you can see at the bottom here.
Yeah.
This is where the salt shed is proposed on this
Yeah.
plan.
Only
The Tesla ones you're speaking of, that where my
You're right
cursor is
there.
here, and I think
Is
that's
the
where
old
Shake
Sears
Shack
Yeah,
Yep.
is here, that's kind of the proximity.
yep.
Yep. So I guess my question, a follow-up on that is, is there surveillance on those at all, or
Surveillance?
do they have surveillance on those, cameras on those?
I think there's surveillance in general at the mall for cameras and whatnot, but I
Does it
know where
extend
you...
out to the charging
And that's
station?
with the recent
Yeah,
vandalism of the
you know,
Teslas, yeah.
But it goes to show that, we've always been with the bollards because of, and then realizing that, good thing we've been so tight with the bollards over these years because a lot of these, there's been a lot of issues with those as of recent, and now everybody's starting to engage the same policy, but this is kind of an eye-opener that, craziness like that can go on out there, and I just want to know if we have surveillance, if they have surveillance out there to be able to ward that type of thing off, or...
I'm sure there's cameras that are at the mall that are on the exterior to be able to monitor activity.
so
I know what you're talking about.
cover
There was
the
an
whole
incident up in Littleton, I think, recently with some vandalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
And we've been made aware, and I don't know if you folks know this, but Salmon Property Group has Operational Intelligence Center in Indianapolis that operates out of one of our malls, and they monitor all of social media and, the things for trends, or any type of things such as what you just spoke about, and immediately notify us. So we have actually been notified about the Tesla charging stations vandalism specifically, and have taken measures to make sure that when our exterior mall patrols as well, that they pay special attention to those, in addition to surveillance and everything else we're already doing.
Right, okay, great.
Great, thank you. All right, Mr. Covino.
Just a curiosity question as far as the salt shed's concerned, is that calcium chloride, sodium chloride, road salt or calcium chloride?
I think it's whatever they've been using over the past several years. So I don't think that's changed at all, but it's probably a combination of all of the above.
Because
So
they drop it on, because there's concrete over there, is that why?
What's your
Well,
thought there,
because
Mr. Covino?
it used to be,
Well, it was, right.
way back when it used to be, you couldn't use salt.
No salt
you couldn't have
zone.
sand. Now
Right.
sand is considered hazardous waste because it clogs up the storm drains.
I think it's an important question, because that goes right into the,
Yeah, and sodium is more environmentally.
Yeah.
Well, I was,
Calcium is more environmentally.
right,
friendly.
but
Maybe
my
we can
concern,
find out for the next meeting.
yeah,
my concern immediately was that they've put a lot of concrete
Right.
process in the,
That's right.
like the raised, I think that's all.
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah,
will eat.
it had the blocks, yeah.
The sodium.
Sodium chloride will eat right through that. The calcium chloride won't.
Well, after a
It
while.
will be, well, I guess everything after a while will be, right? But, yeah.
So maybe, without the question, maybe we put a condition on this to say it has to be calcium chloride?
I think that's more Board of Health issues than.
Well, I think it's more because of the
That would be a-
construction, that would be us on.
Or conservation
If it's going to eat away at the,
roadways.
if it's going to eat the concrete, it's more us versus,
Well, that's a maintenance issue, isn't it, more than?
yeah.
Maybe we just ask the applicant when he comes back in 2 weeks that they give us an answer as to
So
what they actually
what's the
have in here.
material? What's specific material?
Right.
Okay.
So if I could, Mr. Chair, so I believe that there is a specific bylaw, I believe it's in the general bylaw regarding what type of materials can be used on the road for de-icing purposes. Before this decision gets filed, staff would absolutely be checking with Conservation Commission, the engineering department, because they are the ones that, maintain all of our salt sheds and all of that. And then also the Board of Health to make sure that we're in compliance with that. That would be incorporated into whatever decision we make. I would also say that the blocks that were created as part of this structure that was added was built because the Board of Health or not the Board of Health, Conservation Commission was concerned that while they did have tarps over the pile of salt, it could still leach into the wetlands, which are kind of down by Safety Town, if you remember. And so this was kind of at the behest of the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission, to keep that from happening. And, this is this is just to make sure that, we capture those, the loss of parking going forward. The only other comment I have is, would it be possible for the chain link fence? I know you said that it would be slatted, but could it be coated black or another color? So a coated chain link material, because I know that we've requested that in the past. And that is the preferred material.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Pemba.
Is it seasonal, or is this going to be here year-round?
It would stay year-round.
So they're going to leave salt in there year-round?
No, I don't think, it wouldn't be left in there, but
So
the structure
will be there
itself would
year-round,
be.
Salt will be there
Yeah.
seasonally?
It's too difficult to just assemble it again, each season, particularly when, sometimes the seasons start a little earlier and end a little later, right? So,
Is
yeah.
there a rendering of what it's going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, we provided to Caleb.
I can pull it up, just give me one moment.
Thank you.
And it's already out there, Joe, in terms of, that circle element, the roof structure is there today. And then what we would be doing is we'd be providing a fence enclosure with, that would open up for the front so that if a truck needed to access it, and then that enclosure would wrap around it as well. So, and as you can see, it's tucked right up against Middlesex Turnpike, so it's not something that's visible from the naked eye in terms of someone that's, obviously if you're in the parking lot, you would see it if you happen to park way in the back there, but, not from a motorist perspective, someone on Middlesex Turnpike, but.
Is that the fence already up there?
No, that fence is not up yet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
The roof is, but the fence is not.
Any chance of getting a nicer fence?
Yep.
well, I mean, that's just, I think the
wooden
first rendering is meant to, if you could go back to the first, that, the green, that's what we're looking to do, is have
Even
a,
nicer than that.
I mean, I'm thinking more not chain link.
Right. So if you look at, let's say, Paparazzi's Tesmacal, we asked them to put a wooden fence in.
Yep.
A nice wooden fence
A wooden
around.
fence, or even across the way, I think they used that.
Yeah.
The Kelly properties over there, I think they used black vinyl, which is beautiful. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it looks nice. I
Yep.
think it would- It's very unassuming.
Versus chain link, yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
chain link, yeah. I mean, something that would be.
So let's think about that, whatever the board decides, and if it's okay with the applicant.
Maybe you
Okay.
can look into that, and we can talk about it the next time you come back.
Whatever you guys decide.
Yeah, we were hoping not to have to come back, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, understood.
So,
But let's keep on going. We'll keep on going,
You know
we'll
what? I
keep on
was-
going today.
We were continuing everything in the previous meeting, and I was just in
Yeah.
continuation mode, so.
See where this goes. It seems like there are some questions, though. Go ahead, Ms. LaRue.
You mentioned that there are vehicles there that stay there so that they can respond quickly to incidents. Are they removed in the summer and spring months when you, okay, so they won't be there, except for during the winter months?
correct, yeah.
Okay.
Imagine
I
they're
would-
probably going to be gone over the next
Okay.
couple of weeks. So.
I would agree with Member Impemba. I'd like to see a nicer looking fence. Thank you.
Okay, who else we got? Mr. Covino.
Already got me.
All right, I got you. Let's go over to online with Ms. Rappaport. She's not, is she there?
I don't, Brenda?
Okay. We'll go to Ms. Natola.
I'm all set.
Okay. So for me, I'm going to give you a little bit of history and among other things, maybe for our new manager here. There's been a history of doing things and then trying to fix them later. So for example, there was a pile of salt covered by a tarp. And then town comes in and says, you know, you've got the Vine Brook, so let's think of somewhere where you can fix that. And at the time, it was determined that this was a temporary structure, so it didn't have to come to us because the cement blocks, it was determined that because there was no foundation, it was a temporary building. And I'm familiar with these type of things in a past life where they tend not to be temporary. You don't take them down, right? But because the definition of not having a foundation made it temporary, so it didn't come before us. Other items that have been kind of do it and then figure it out afterwards with the town, if you recall, there were truck rentals that we had over in the far corner. There was also school bus parking over in where the salt shed is. So hopefully with the new management, if you're thinking of things that may be accessory but non-accessory, you know, maybe check with the town on that first versus just doing it and then trying to figure out afterwards. On this property, and Caleb, I don't know if you can bring up the photos I took yesterday. If you want to take a look at the overall one, you've got the vehicles that are there, but what else is there is kind of interesting. I'll let you get a
Just
second.
give me one moment.
Yeah. Is that there's a third party that has a field office trailer there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so if you take a look at that, and that looks like the snow removal company, again, and we have an expert of snow removal on here, there's another company that had a container at another site, and they said, well, is that usual for a snow removal company to have something there? And that was much smaller. I just am not familiar with, you know, folks having a trailer. They also have a container. They also have a porta potty.
Snow removal headquarters?
It's a field office. This company is based out of Lowell, but because I guess it's a big job there, if you keep on going right there to the left of the salt shed, so not only is it taking up the couple of spaces that you said, but there's also the bollards, the concrete bollards there, where they're parking all their vehicles. I think I counted 12 of them.
The Jersey barriers.
Thank you, Jersey barriers. You can see there the trailer to the left. You got the porta potty there with the little orange dot on it, and then you got a shipping container, a Condex container to the right of that. So I guess, you know, that is, my question is, that's another kind of accessory, but my concern is that if that's a field office for that third-party landscape snow removal company, would they potentially be bringing in, as far as a snowfield, from other places where they've got such a big expansive parking lot that they're already taking advantage of storing snow at? So my concern is having that be a field office for that third party. And, you know, again, Mr. Covino, you have expertise.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Simon would let them bring somebody else's snow onto their property.
Oh, but what about vehicles?
But the trailer, now you've got the trailer
think
that's
the
taking up
trail-
probably
Would that go
1, 2,
away?
3, 4, 5. Again, the question
Trailer
of,
going away?
So the trailer is there for overnight operations. Last few storms were overnight storms, and we were pretty much under snow operations for 14 to 16 hours. So that is for their team to take a break, because they can't really go into the mall is closed. And I think that's why the porta potty is there is really for their team. And that's only been there as of recent, like the last 2 storms. That is not permanent.
It's not permanent?
It is not a field office for their,
So what did they do before the last 2 storms?
from what I understand, and I can't really speak to the past, but I think this has always been the case. I'm not sure.
The snow shed is new, and I don't recall ever, and I used to, where I grew up right down the street, so I've seen, a lot of snowstorms there. I don't remember seeing a temporary trailer there for any
And
snow.
I can assure you it's not
How
meant,
they're in
it's,
operation.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's
we
not
make-
intended to be a hub for them to bring snow in from others,
Maybe
so.
we make it a condition of this, that we're approving tonight. We're going to approve the fence. We're going to say the vehicles all have to be removed in spring, and you can't come back until next winter season, and all the rest of it has to go.
Yeah, container, what's the condex, what's in the condex container?
Yeah, the container, the porta potty, and the trailer.
Yeah,
all gone.
What's in there?
Snow shovels, bags, salt,
I don't know. I guess it's a question to the applicant.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
The container to the right of the porta
To the
potty?
left.
To the left of the salt shed, there's a black condex container.
Yeah. I imagine that's
I
maybe
think it's equipment, shovels.
shovels.
Is that there only in the last couple of weeks, or is that there for the winter season as well? Because then we'd have to add that to the plan, you know what I mean?
I think it's only been there temporary.
So that would be removed only for that would only be put in there for large storms? So maybe that's,
Probably their old
I'm
season.
not
And
comfortable
I
with
think
this.
Seasonal
I would want
use.
to put a restriction on there that they shouldn't be bringing off-site snow onto the lot, because,
Yep.
that affects the parking spots, spaces.
That
Parking,
absolutely.
I can assure you there's no
it's not
offsite.
happening.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
we have enough of our own snow.
That's a good point, and I
Yeah.
think it's a good.
that's a
Right.
concern, because you've got if you look at the company, one of their assets is they're a landscaping and snow removal company. So if you've got a field office here for a regional field office, they're based up in Lowell, would you cart snow wherever they take it up to their primary snow field?
Nowadays, they're probably melting it.
Melt
before
it,
they cart it.
melt it.
Right, you would think. So if they're going to bring it out here and melt it here,
Yeah, we don't want
into the,
melting it here.
into the Vine Brook.
Catch basins,
Right.
because you're
Right.
bringing, again, sand and.
Direct to the Vine
other
Brook.
silt and things that they're gonna put into.
Yeah,
the-
it'd probably go the other way around, though. You'd bring the melter to where the snow is, rather than the snow to where the melter is.
Well, if you got a
It's
melter,
portable.
you don't.
Yeah, the
But even
don't-
if, I agree that we should put that provision in there that they can't have snow brought in, but I also think the condex container, the porta potty, and the trailer have to go.
In the springtime.
They were, and they shouldn't come back. There was never an agreement that they could be there. This is exactly what Bill was talking about,
It-
bringing things in and asking for them later.
It might also be a determination of the building inspector as to whether they're temporary or permanent.
Oh, they'd be temporary, because you can move them. That was the determination of the salt shed,
Yeah.
is a temporary structure, because there's no foundation.
Right, but
So now that you have
They're
that understood, but they would be, I would imagine that, just think, that you could probably remove the trailer, let's say that was there for the last couple of storms, which I'm going to imagine it was probably there a bit longer.
Yeah.
Porta potty, but the container, if we didn't say anything, probably stay there, right?
Yeah.
So, and whatever's in there, can they bring them in the trucks, or, put them into the office,
So look, I mean, the whole purpose of this is, it's for safety, right? I mean.
Yeah, but they've never been there, so I've been
Yeah,
there
no,
for
I'm
50
not
years, so
arguing
it's
that.
the
but I
first time.
I don't want you to think that
Why
we're going
now?
to do something here
Right,
for.
that it
like,
doesn't look.
someone living in there or
So
something,
I would argue even that for Burlington, when we said we had to put the salt shed over where the DPW is, they said they couldn't do it because it was too close to the Vine Brook.
Right.
Impossible to do it. We can't do it. It's got to be over at the center of the town, because we can't put a salt shed right here in the Vine Brook. So what we did was we put it behind Shaw's, and we put landscaping around it, too. So, again, we're going to fence, but, we're not going to have any landscaping here, even to soften it up a bit more, to have it right there in the mall parking lot, which, so,
And I think it's coming to light more now, because as I've said, every time I drive by the mall, and it's a great site, it's wall-to-wall cars. I've never in my life seen it as busy as it is right now for the past year. I mean, it's literally, you'd see cars close to the buildings, and all the outside spots were always open. You never see that now. No matter when you drive by, that mall is full. So that, the spots are actually at a premium over there, and I think it's, it's more important than ever that we make sure that the site plan isn't affected by any additional temporary buildings or structures or anything like that that are going in there.
Okay, so will the Jersey barriers be removed as well? Are they going to stay there?
All of that would be removed, the barriers too, yes.
They will be removed as well, okay.
The barriers, the trailer, the vehicles, the porta potty, and the container will all be removed.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to come back.
Well,
They never were there before 2 years ago when we first know, and with sand was dumped on the parking lot, and then Conservation said, you got to cover it instead of
Right.
tarps, you got to put something up there, so,
I mean, I think in an ideal world, I mean, we would like to have the discretion for the contractor to be able to, safely be out there and do their job without, if there are overnight operations and, there's a driver that needs to, rest for a bit and they want to be able to utilize that, I
How
mean,
did you do it before? Because that wasn't.
I don't know, Barbara. I don't know what the history's been in terms of,
yeah. And I've never really seen another field office any place I've
Yeah.
gone for snow removal,
and I don't know whether it's been there in years past or
The other
not,
thing
but,
is that
so.
if this is gonna be a permanent structure, it's affecting the site plan. So do we need to redo, this isn't something that,
Right.
we need to have a site plan before us to be able to look at this and see how many
Yep.
spots it's being taken up.
No, that's what, well, we did show that on the site plan.
It did show, yeah.
Yeah, so it's,
So we're voting
You showed the
to
salt
change the
shed.
site plan.
Just the salt shed,
Not the
that's all
salt
they're
shed,
showing,
just
right
the
here.
salt shed and the
Right.
fence.
Yeah.
Not all the rest.
Right.
On a temporary basis, you might
Taking up
want
a
to
lot of spots.
let them bring their Jersey barriers back if you're going to have equipment there, so people don't run into the equipment. I don't think it's taking up any parking spaces that I've ever seen used in the 50 years I've lived here. Nobody parks there, underneath Middlesex Turnpike.
I've, some Christmases, there's,
During-
Really?
During
Yeah.
holidays, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And plus it's
yeah.
unsightly.
Yeah.
May as well
the way
park
it is right now.
on Cambridge Street and walk down.
Yeah, no, back there's been packed during Christmas, yeah.
It is. I mean, I've never seen it in all the years I've been in this
That's good.
town.
That's
It's
good.
been here.
Okay,
It's
and just the
great.
other thing, if you could move to another picture there, Caleb, is just to the left of what we're seeing here, there's a dumpster at pole 36, if you want to show that.
Yep, just give me one moment.
Thank you.
I mean, I think we need to think about whether we want this
Yeah,
to be
Yeah.
a permanent structure,
Yeah.
taken out in the
Yeah.
summertime.
Yep,
or
thank
not.
you.
I don't, it doesn't to me look like a permanent structure, that it should be able to be removed.
so
I think it's on wheels,
So
Joe.
what's the,
this area here was where they had all the construction fenced off when they were doing, redoing the Sears area.
I'm
right,
not
but
talking
it's,
about the trailer area, I'm talking
You're
about
talking about dumpster now?
yeah.
all the
The
shed.
salt
Shed
shed
itself,
itself,
yeah,
yeah.
well, that's a good question, yeah. So here it's under 36, so if you give you just a locator in there, it's right, it's to the, if you looked at the salt shed here, it's to the right. And it's just a lone dumpster sitting there. And there was actually a person, you can see him right there, that was using it as a public dumpster. So, well, my dad was concerned that he was going to come running after us.
I'm going to tell you firsthand knowledge that in Cambridge, down near BB&N, where the kids used to go to school, the parking lots that are often there, in the fall, they would come in, the state would come in, and they'd put salt sheds bigger than that, and put them up in a day.
Temporary
Temporary.
salt shed.
They'd bring them in for the winter, and they'd take them out in the spring. And they were 5 times the size of that one right there.
Okay,
And it
so a
took them
temporary
day to
salt
put them
shed.
in, day to take them out. It wasn't.
So they do exist,
Yeah.
it's temporary.
Right, so I don't think necessarily that this is a permanent structure.
Okay.
This should be
Right.
considered a permanent.
It's not considered by the building inspector either, that's why it's,
Well, I mean, what I'm saying, I don't necessarily think
Let's
it should
get rid of it.
necessarily be there permanently.
You're saying it should be removed when
Are you
they're
talking
It should be real, if they're removing the
Talking
salt,
about the salt shed.
they're taking the salt out of there, they should take the shit out of it.
okay.
It's a day's,
So
get
what's
it out.
that?
So this is just a dumpster.
What is that doing there?
So we have, Kendra Scott is building a store right now, and that is their dumpster. They're in a demo phase.
Okay.
So we allowed the tenants to put a dumpster, so that also is temporary. Their demo is usually 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
And they just use it, they empty it, and then that will go away too. They started last week, so they should be done by next week. That will be gone.
Maybe he was an employee of that activity, but didn't look like it at the time, so I'm assuming that, but I could be wrong.
Enterprising passerby, probably.
I think that was the case, the way he was looking over there, so, okay, so if the dumpster will take care of that, we won't put it in the discussion, but it's a good point, so maybe for the next time, we can look at what a real temporary salt shed would look like. They do exist.
No, they're exactly like that.
Oh, they're like, and they just take the blocks.
Only
They
bigger,
empty it,
and
they
only they're
take the
probably
blocks.
5 times bigger.
Okay,
They're
so
the same
temporary.
shape, the same everything. They just bring them in, they put them up at one, I'd be
Okay.
pulling into the parking lot, they'd be putting it up. By the time I pick the kids up at night.
It's already done.
They'd be done.
And do they
It was
have
done.
trailers and porta potties next to them?
No.
Yeah.
I guess
No,
our-
it wasn't for that. In other words, they weren't set up for those lots. They were set up by the state,
Oh,
so they
for
could have
delivery.
salt
Oh, they were
there
just
and they
coming
could
and getting
come
it, okay.
Get their salt and.
I get it.
bring you know.
If I could respectfully, Joe, I mean, we aren't looking to kind of redo it each season. It does have these large concrete block bases around the perimeter of it, and, you know, we want to be able to enclose it with a fence as well, and it's kind of hard to do that on a, kind of, you know, put a fence up every year and whatnot. So, I mean, you can see it, you know, has those blocks around it that, you know, the roof is then attached to, and, you know, we want to be able to just kind of clean it up and enclose it, and I think when it's enclosed with the fence, it's not taking up much air. I know it might look like it would, but it's going to be a tight, compact area that's about 33 feet by 33 feet. So, you know, we really don't want to be in a position where we have to kind of construct it every season. Sometimes the season starts early in October, you know, so, I mean, I guess our preference would be to, you know, have that structure there, have it enclosed with a fence. The board, you know, talked about chain link versus
Maybe what
something
we
else.
do
but-
is you can keep the blocks there, but take the temporary, you know, structure off the top.
Mr. Chair,
There's
and
less.
I'm just going to make, if I may, I would be inclined to vote in favor of this if the fence was not a chain link fence, it was a nicer fence, as Member Mpemba had proposed, and that all of the rest is gone. And if you need to keep vehicles there during the winter in order to clear the snow and spread the salt, I understand that, but not any of the rest.
I think that's fine. Yeah.
And we can, the type of fence that you suggested, Joe, was like a
Black vinyl, it's like the white
fence.
vinyl, but black.
Right.
They have them right across, right at the,
They're nice looking.
what's the one that Jay Kelly put on the new, right across the Mall Road from the, not, you know, where he purchased where the Wendy's is.
Wendy's is, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a black vinyl fence over there,
Okay.
beautiful. Actually, it's
Okay,
very
we'll look at
classy
it.
looking, and, yeah.
Something you can do?
Yes.
Great, so we can condition it that way, and I think we need to condition it that there will be no trailers, no porta potties, no containers.
And how about the Jersey barriers?
I'm open to the Jersey barriers. I don't know, I'm really not sure how likely it is that cars are going to go driving into the trucks, because the majority of cars would get the worst of that. I don't know that they're necessary, but I'm willing to listen to the argument for that.
And the condition that there's be no snow brought onto the property
No, so,
by
and the Jersey barriers would have to go away with, you know, when
with
the
the
vehicles
springtime.
go away.
Yeah. Joe, what's your thought on that?
About the Jersey barriers.
About keeping the salt shed there?
Well, I
With the
mean,
nicer
again,
fence.
I mean, you know,
The nice
I
black
know they
fence,
can
right.
remove those things. They think it's probably a lot of work. So I would be up for a compromise if they wanted to do it, make it look nice, and that was the only thing that was
Okay.
there, I guess. But I think they should take a look at that. We actually talked Jay Kelly into that. They wanted it, and then some people tried to talk them out of it, and I think we talked them into it at that point. And
Black
once it
vinyl.
was up, it was beautiful. So I
Okay.
think it would make a big difference down there.
Caleb, are you getting all that?
Oh, I got all, I have,
Is that the-
Everything gets
the
removed.
black vinyl fence, is that what you're
Mr.
saying?
Covino?
I don't know if you want to not allow them to have a porta potty there. think of a snow plowing operation that lasts 16 hours. Where would you like the gentleman to
Where do they go typically if there's no porta potty?
I don't
at
see
your-
why, if
at
they're
your-
working for the mall, why can't
find
they
an
go
open
into the
Dunkin'
mall?
Donuts?
Mall's closed.
Yeah, I guess, sure.
Where does, I mean, your experience there, where do they typically go stop at the Dunkin' Donuts or?
I really don't have any idea.
They just kind of.
Careful,
Hold the car, out they go, and they come hop back in the car probably, yeah. Right.
I mean, does that, I guess if they have a trailer there, why does that not have a
It
bathroom?
might not have a bathroom in it.
Well, it should.
No,
Yeah.
Not
Well,
necessarily.
okay, how's this?
Trailers
If they
will be-
want to have a porta potty, it has to be inside the black vinyl fence.
Ah, good point.
Yeah, I mean, then you're gonna have to, I was thinking the exact same thing, but now you're probably gonna, because they
You have
need to
to-
access that with trucks. So where are you gonna put it?
Yeah,
They
you
can't
could-
put it
you could-
behind unless you maybe put another gate
You
on
can
the.
put it
You could
right where
put it
that
like in
black
one of the
container
left
is,
to right front corner.
right where the black
A loader
container
would never
is.
get there.
because that has to go away.
Yeah, but is that gonna be inside the fence?
Well, you just make sure it's inside the
No.
fence.
Well, then you're gonna make the fence bigger. is what
A
I'm
little
saying.
bit bigger, not a
Well, I
lot.
mean, you may be able to put a gate on the back of the black vinyl fence and make it access from the back. Is there room in the back to access the a
Not
porta potty?
really.
Put a porta
You know,
potty?
we're trying to keep the fence kind of tight to it, so it's not taking up a lot of area, but, I mean, I think we could be more discreet with the porta potty and have it be kind of tucked in the back a bit,
I think
but,
it
you
can be
know.
with inside the fence. I mean, so you move the fence over by 2 feet or something.
I'd be very surprised if those trailers don't all have bathrooms.
But they're not allowed
They
to have
don't.
the trailer anymore.
Yeah.
No, but when the trailer, even when they're, right, then
No,
it's not
trailer
gonna
has
be
to go
big.
away.
Right, okay.
The only thing that can stay in the winter would be the vehicles.
Now, see, if the black vinyl fence is the same size as this one, there's not an area, you'd have to expand the fence out.
Right, a
maybe
little
put
bit.
a,
I would rather see them expand the fence out 2 feet so they can, so that we don't have a porta potty out there in the parking lot
Yeah.
for half the year. I don't think it changes visually what you're seeing if the fence is just a teeny bit wider so that you can fit a porta potty there in the back.
Sounds good.
And then it's covered by the fence.
Sure.
So condition is porta potty only if,
Inside the fence.
Inside the
If it's-
fence. And the fence is black vinyl.
and they don't need to have it if they don't want to have it. Then
Right.
just keep the
No,
fence
they don't
there.
have to.
Right. Okay. All right, so,
Get all that?
did you get everybody?
Unfortunately, these meetings are recorded, so I can always
Okay.
go
Did
back.
did I get our folks online?
Remember.
We got two versions.
You got
of it.
Tony in, I'm not sure.
Did I get Brenda?
Nothing for me at this time, thank you.
Yeah, WebEx, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Brenda.
Okay.
All right. Not an easy one, and you got a little bit of history there that it's not your fault, but you, with the truck rentals and school bus parking and whatever else was going on that we didn't know about. So come to us first, we'll be happy to discuss things, and even this with the trailer and the porta potty, we're happy to discuss all this, even the salt shed.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for approval of a minor engineering change for property located at 75 Middlesex Turnpike, the premises, to allow for approval of a sand and salt storage building as reflected on the red-lined plan entitled Salt Shed Burlington Mall, prepared by VHB Incorporated, dated January 7th, 2025, consisting of one sheet, subject to the following revisions, terms, and conditions as amended.
Second.
Gaffney,
Yes.
LaRue,
Yes.
Impemba,
Yes.
Cavino,
Yes.
Rappaport,
Yes.
Natola.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
All right, so we've got matters of appointment finally. How are we doing for time? We're doing good. Thanks for being so patient. Item 8A is a public hearing and application of approval for a special permit pursuant to 4.2.6.11 restaurants of the zoning bylaws 6 Wayside Road. Hinoki Hospitality, Inc. is the applicant.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, good evening, Chairman and board members. My name's Alan. I'm the architect that represent my client Hinoki, who will be expanding their footprint into the Burlington community, which we're all very excited about. So Hinoki, a little introduction, it started in down in Rhode Island, I think a few years back, and it's been a very successful restaurant down there. It's Asian cuisine. It brings a really fine dining experience. We believe it's going to be an added additional dining option to the local community. In terms of the project scope, currently, so there will be no change of use, as currently the address is the existing restaurant, Not Your Average Joe's, who just moved out and completed their lease with the landlord. In terms of the architectural scope, and the majority of the existing kitchen will remain intact. With addition of new equipment, as you can see on the plan, we're showing those a yellow transparent or the equipments, and we're only making minor changes to the kitchen, adding a walk-in freezer and cooler, and the bathroom layout will be upgraded to meet the current, Massachusetts general the plumbing code requirements. We're essentially adding a few stalls to meet the current code. The wine bar, which is right off the entry from the page bottom right corner, we're entering, will stay in the same location. While we'll be introducing a new sushi bar, if you look at the page up to the right, yes, right over there.
Oh, okay, right there.
Yeah, so to enhance the dining experience. So there's currently an outdoor seating areas as the existing condition, as you can see. So we will remain a similar arrangement as before. And so there's no changes to the overall seating count, which will, our current total seating count will remain as 144 interior seats and 44 outdoor seats, as was previously approved for the former restaurant. We're very confident that Hinoki will be a valuable addition to the community, and we're very excited and committed, to create a very positive impact. To the local community. And thank you, for time and consideration. And Joe is the restaurant owner, and we're here to answer any questions the board may have.
Yeah. Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
What's your name?
Joe Chan.
Joe Chan. Thank you, Joe. Okay.
My vote.
We haven't started yet, Joe. Hold on a minute. It seems Joe's very excited. Let's go over to staff. Any comments, staff, please?
No concerns from staff side. It's the former Not Your Average Joe's location, so, restaurant to a restaurant, there's, minor upgrades to the space, but it's not reconfiguring kind of what's there. Indoor, outdoor seating, they're aware of, I know something the board's asked in the past, of no advertisements on the outside umbrellas. I believe, to confirm, you've already received your liquor license from the select board?
Yeah.
Yes, so kind of moving that part ahead. Parking-wise, there's enough parking within the bylaw to accommodate all of the seating within the ratios. So other than that, we're excited. They're going to be their second location, so kind of bringing this into Burlington is exciting.
Great. Thank you very much, staff. Let's go with our board members. Let me start with Mr. Covino.
I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. LaRue.
Just a couple of questions. First of all, I'm very excited about this. I'm looking forward to coming and checking your restaurant out. You do have there were a couple of spaces when Not Your Average Joe's was there that were marked for takeout. And I'm assuming you're going to want to keep those. If so, I would request that they just be designated short-term, 10
Short-term,
or
not-
15 minutes, as
yeah,
opposed to
to
specific
takeout or
to one
anything.
restaurant, because there's also the Treasury right behind there.
That's
that
correct.
They should be able to use those spaces as well.
Right.
Other
Okay.
than that, I have no questions.
Thanks. Good point.
Okay.
Oh, you're
Thank
not
you.
going to have valet, are you?
We're not planning doing
Oh,
valet.
valet.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So if you have to valet, come back.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the draft condition, there's already if valet services that kind of coming back to the board. So
Yep, because that's a big deal.
That's in there.
Yeah, if we do valet, we'll come back.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you have valet in Greenwich, Connecticut?
No, we don't. Actually, right now we have another restaurant opening, Queens, New York, same brand. So it's in
Queens.
Queens, New York, in Western Hotel.
Oh, Weston Hotel. Okay, very
Yeah,
good.
so we're doing quality work there.
Very good.
So I want to bring the quality to Burlington,
Yeah, we-
especially for Burlington this couple year. The restaurant is like
Yeah.
all the quality brings up a lot. That's why I want to join the community, provide good service here.
Love to have you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mr. Impemba?
What's your target opening date?
Hopefully, normally like 6 months, 6 to 7 months, I would say.
7 months, okay. Okay,
You said you're in currently at Greenwich?
We have a location in Greenwich, Connecticut. Yep.
and then Queens is the Westin Hotel, you said?
Yes, yes.
How
It's
long have you been in those locations?
Greenwich is about 6 years.
6 years, okay.
And then we have a couple other different brands too, but I think right now we're doing high-end brand for Hinoki. So I think Burlington, Greenwich, it's the area we want to be.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Rappaport?
Nothing for me, except for I looked at the menu online, and I'm really excited for you to join the community. Thank you.
Ms. Natola?
I'm all set too. Very excited to have you.
Great, thank you. Thank you for both for attending remotely as well. Just the comment I have, I did as well, check out your menu, and I've really been a long time looking for someplace that does have some dim sum.
Yes, we do.
And at least locally, where you'd have to go down into Chinatown or maybe Malden to get that. So I'm very excited to that.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. And again, no change of seating. So I have no further questions. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to open up to the public. Folks here that want to speak for or against this application? I see none. Anybody online?
I do not see any hands raised online, no.
May I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request, to close the public hearing on this matter.
Gaffney?
Yes.
LaRue?
Yes.
Impemba?
Yes.
Cavino?
Yes.
Rappaport?
Yes.
Natola?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Chair, I'd also like to make a motion to approve the request of Hinoki Hospitality Incorporated for a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.6.11, Restaurants of Article 4 of the Town of Burlington zoning bylaws, to permit the use of an existing tenant space for a restaurant known as Hinoki for property located in the General Business District at 6 Wayside Road, subject to the terms and conditions contained in Exhibit A attached.
Second.
Gaffney?
Yes.
LaRue?
Yes.
Impemba?
Yes.
Cavino?
Yes.
Rappaport?
Yes.
Natola?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Burlington.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
too.
Thank you for being so patient.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so we are on to minutes. And we had 2 sets of minutes. Take them together or take them separately? Anybody?
That's up to you guys.
I can do together.
Together? I can do together?
Fine.
Together.
Joe, I got your edit.
Together?
Yep.
So just to go together. So may I have a motion,
Mr.
please?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of February 6, 2025, and August 3rd, 2023.
Second.
Gaffney?
Yes.
LaRue?
Yes.
Impemba?
Yes.
Cavino?
Yes.
Rappaport?
Yes.
Natola?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Other matters, we have discussion of subdivision, release of lot for sale at 21 Fieldstone Drive. Staff comments, please.
I'll turn that one over to Liz.
Ms. Liz.
I can answer this a little bit. So we got an email from a realtor who is working on the purchase and sale of 21 Fieldstone Drive, and as part of his research, he found that the lot had never been officially released from the subdivision. So this is the subdivision was filed back in 1966, approved in 1966. There were 80 lots, and then. And so why this matters is we do subdivisions really to protect the town, because we want to make sure that when a developer comes in to build houses, that he's also building the roadway and infrastructure up to our standards.
Right.
So I do not have a problem with this, because Fieldstone Drive was accepted by town meeting in May of 1996. So therefore, the engineering department has reviewed it. It's the right of way is constructed appropriately, and so this is just to release the lots from the covenant of the Golden Hearth Acres subdivision. So it's literally kind of just paperwork, so that people can sell their house and a new family can move in. Yeah. So that's why we do this. I thought I'd just give you guys an overview of that. But I think it's a good thing to do.
Great, thank you. I'm surprised that it hasn't happened before since the subdivision was 1966. There must have been a lot of houses sold in between then.
That's a pretty competent attorney.
Exactly what I'm saying. That's right, a little title search action. So is there a motion? On any discussion, I'm sorry. Any discussion from board members?
I'd like to make a
Seeing
motion
none.
that the planning board hereby release lots 50 in the Golden Hearth Acres definitive subdivision of from the conditional approval covenant and endorses a Form G certificate of compliance for said lot as requested by the applicant's attorney on March 5th, 2025.
Second.
Gaffney.
Yes.
LaRue.
Yes.
Hold on.
Question first. It says lots 50, are there more lots, or is that just?
Lot.
Is it lot?
That's supposed to be lot.
Lot 50.
Lot 50, okay, one lot, okay?
Lot 50, not 50.
Okay, thank you for the, yep.
Do you want to we got it. Gaffney.
Yes.
LaRue.
Yes.
Impemba.
Yes.
Cavino.
Yes.
Rappaport.
Yes.
Natola.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Correspondence,
Nice.
none. Reports from town council, none. Subcommittee reports, Sculpture Park?
Yes, the Sculpture Park, also now known as the
Oh, yeah.
Public Arts Committee,
Public Arts
will be appearing before the Select Board next Monday to discuss the permanent relocation of the sculptures. It's been suggested by the Recreation Director and by certain members of the Select Board that they would prefer to come up with a permanent location for the sculptures so that they don't have to be moved twice. We have a number of options that we'll be presenting on Monday, and we're hoping to get a vote at that time. The sculptures would not be moving until later in the summer because it is expected that demolition for the police station will begin in September.
Excellent.
So that's the report on the Public Arts
Public Arts
Committee.
Committee.
Even options? Do we know the options, or?
Yes, if you'd like, I can try to describe them.
Sure.
Okay, so one of the options was to keep them in the same locations where the pigs were this past summer, which is on the perimeter of the common. That does not look like it's going to be favorable to Select Board. Another option, which I think is probably quite favorable, is to have 4 to 5 of them on the outskirts of the common on the Center Street side, with the other 4 or 5 across the street, not exactly in front of the municipal buildings, to the sides of them, to sort of create a walk.
Walkway, yeah.
So that's another option. Option 3 was one that was suggested by Select Board member Morandi, and this one I'm a little hesitant about because the Recreation Department was not thrilled with it. They said they could handle it, but it wasn't their favorite. And it was, if you are standing at the gazebo, looking toward the memorial area, there's that half wall, and in that quadrant, he suggested putting them all there. Then there was a suggestion from another community member that was, I think, also supported by Member Espaillo, to put them in the triangular section near where the dog and the Red Heart guy already are. So that's a slightly larger section. It's over there in the corner, kind of in front of the police station and closer to where the Sculpture Park used to be. So I think option 1 is kind of off the table. Select Board was not happy with that one. It's probably going to be one of the other 3. And we'll find out on Monday.
So if it went where Selectman Morandi hits it, so
Yes.
that would be by that wall with
Yes.
as you're looking towards the fire station, kind of from the
Yes.
gazebo area, right? Now, would that, that sounds to me like it would be an area that you could concentrate them all in that area. And
Yes.
if you want, and you could even have, like, almost, vegetation around it, if you wanted to have functions. People
Yes.
could have functions in there, and it
Yes.
wouldn't, and they wouldn't have to walk all
Right,
around the
right.
whole, areas.
Right, and the benefit of that you've described, and also it's visible from Cambridge Street. The drawback that we have to consider is that that space is used pretty heavily during Celebrate Burlington and Truck Day, so they wouldn't be able to use that section.
Well, truck day, though, they bring in, in other words, if you're going to the outskirts, they bring trucks in from
Right.
every location, right? So.
But it was, the way that the pigs worked fine in those locations, but they're not going to go with the outskirts anyway, they don't want to do that. The section But what you described as the benefits of there also, I think, are the same benefits over on the corner near the dog, because they would be, again, congregated
Right.
in a grouping. So there are drawbacks and
Yeah.
benefits to all of them, and, you know, we'll see what the select board decides. It's their final decision.
Okay, great.
So then, today we had a police
Station Building
committee meeting, and the
Okay.
first one we've had since November. And we saw a lot. Caleb is going to pull up a bunch of renderings, and they sort of progress. So the first one that you see is going to be the same thing that you saw a few months ago, and then based on feedback, they came up with a lot of different options. They also presented some very preliminary site plan, sort of, but it wasn't real exact.
Yep.
Is that
Yeah.
a way to describe it?
Yeah, so kind of
So we'll get
starting
to
with the
that.
rendering.
So this was the rendering that we started with back in November. Feedback was given that it looked like a big giant block, and we thought we could do better, to put it, you know, very bluntly and
But
quickly.
with an homage to the Union School.
Yes, so this was option 2, and I think maybe we should, I'm not going to say a lot about each one because there's a lot of options for you to look at, and we can
You
continue.
can kind of see
to
the
look at
progression of the thinking.
Okay.
Right. The idea is that they want to get feedback from lots of different boards, and then the next police station building committee meeting, they'll hopefully select one to start moving forward with. Before you move,
Oh,
don't
yep.
go yet. Yeah, okay, you can keep going. They're going to be coming to us hopefully at our second April meeting. So this, the difference between the one before this and this one is it has the 2-story vestibule, glass vestibule there. And then the next one, the main difference is, you'll see there are no shutters, but the reason for that, they explained, was this window configuration works better for the way the offices are going to be placed inside. With the one previous, some offices did not have adequate light, and it wasn't as equitable across all the different offices. They felt this was better from an interior point of view, and also, they said the shutters, while, you know, people like shutters, they are an additional maintenance
Can you
issue
move
that they
up
were
just-
trying to
just one
avoid.
shutters,
To move what?
Just up one.
Oh, go to the previous
Don't
one.
mind.
To the previous one. So
Yeah, you
this
can see
one
the black.
There
has
you go,
shutters
thank you.
in sort of one window,
Oh,
whereas
I
the
see what you're
next
saying,
one
yeah.
has 2 windows, no shutters.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, on this one, I like those
Oh,
little
sorry.
half-moon windows that are at the top of the peaks, and I don't see why we couldn't move those.
Yeah,
to the
sure,
next
give them
one.
more light.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got one in my house.
Those are nice.
Nice,
And then, so the next one, as I said, has the other windows with no shutters. And is that the last
keep
one?
the
or is there one
I see
more?
what you're saying, keep
Yeah,
I
this
like
is,
to have
I think this is the, within
this is
option
just-
5A is kind of a higher up rendering.
Different view. And then
Yep.
if we keep going, they do show a back view of this. And
Okay.
that's the thing that I would call a garage on the right, I guess is actually called a sally port.
Ah,
Okay? The mechanicals are going to be inside, under the roof, so there will actually be what I would describe as what looks like a large dormer on that roof, but it's vents, not windows, just for the mechanicals, so they would be
Right.
hidden inside, which is nice. Now, what looks like brick, the way it was described is not, the way they have it done is not actually brick. It was going to be shingles, but they said, I actually said, I thought it would be nice to have that be brick because it would sort of tie it in a little
Sure.
bit with the other municipal buildings that
Yeah.
are in this area, and they said it probably could be a brick look.
Okay.
So, I forget, so
Great.
this is, we're going through fast, but we can go back.
Yeah.
and-
Well, maybe.
And I
we'll make
did
this-
share these with the planning board members earlier today.
Yeah, you all have this. So then as we go down, I think is where we come to the site.
Yeah, and you might have,
And I had to leave for this part for Paul's birthday cake. So
good, good.
I didn't, so I'm going to let Caleb take over here.
yeah, so I mean, from when they had previously come before the board, I can't remember exactly when that was. I think this was kind of the first drawn-up site plan. Again, this is still in the working phase. This isn't their final ideas. This was kind of their first working site plan. And then what they brought today, and then is this newer site plan, which kind of One of the main differences, if my computer lets me move down without moving different items, is a slightly different kind of public parking area here in the front. You can see kind of you move through here. Again, nothing has been finalized as far as the site layout, the site design. At this time, they're still kind of looking for the input from different boards, committees, members, kind of as Barbara was saying, that the turnaround time, because this is, when this is filed with the planning board, this is gonna be a site plan, so it has to go through the full public hearing process. So as far as getting on a meeting, our deadlines are pretty far set back, because we wanna make sure that we adhere to Mass General Law. So getting them at the earliest in front of the board for an official site plan is gonna probably be the second meeting in April, if not the first in May.
Can you scooch that up a little bit? I want to see how much they left of the
Sculpture.
field there. Yeah.
You're talking about down here?
Did you get
So I did ask the question as far as, how much space down here is going to be, how many trees are gonna be removed, what's gonna be the square footage of new paved space? They said that they didn't have an exact answer, and we're gonna be able to get that information to us once they have an accurate number. And I said, it's gonna be helpful to know what that amount of space is, how many trees you're removing, and how many are gonna be replaced. I did remind them, in the town center overlay, I mean, good planning anyways, but because in the town center overlay, having native species, as far as everything that's replaced, told them to talk to our conservation department, because they have all the, kind of the information on that as well. That was kind of the extent of what we really got into after you left today.
So they couldn't answer the question as to how much of that parcel next door they're going to take.
They didn't have that answer right.
What's that area that you have your cursor on right there?
This is an auxiliary building.
An auxiliary building for?
Oh, I didn't see
We
that.
don't know. Okay, well, that's a question we'll have.
Questions we can
I
ask.
don't know what that's
So
for.
along the line of the trees,
Yep.
is there a way they can do an overlay, like get a picture from above now of that site, and then do an overlay with the trees from the picture of where they're gonna be putting,
As far as where the current lot line is?
and we're gonna be able to see exactly what
Yep.
trees are coming out of it.
That's a good idea.
Good
I
idea.
can-
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Lot lines, yeah, I have a number of questions, that come out of the meeting today, that being able to talk with the project group.
Right.
Okay.
And I'll list to the list.
And my initial thoughts in looking at the designs, to be honest with you, they all look like apartment buildings to me. I feel like there's, even the glass, like if it was an applicant coming before us in the center of town, we wouldn't want all that glass going top, we'd ask for a nice, colonial
Do you
front
prefer
with some
that?
thick, well, yeah, I mean, it's not even, like, it looks more like the entrance into an apartment.
Assisted living.
Yeah, like an assisted living, it does. In other words, when you think about a town, building or bigger columns, and more
Well,
of
they
a
did
presence for
actually
the
talk about the
entrance
columns.
area and.
They did talk about the fact that these columns are skinny and they need to beef them up and make them
And
look
even the
better.
overhang on it, just,
Yeah.
something more substantial, colonial looking, it looks like an assisted living facility, and I would hate to think that would be going on.
But all of
down
this
the
is good, beefier columns and a more impressive.
road. Entrance with with the triangular roof, bigger, much more beefier and
Beefier.
more detailed wooden, Yeah, I don't.
If you can see an example, Joe, that'd probably help them, you know what I mean? Like to say, what have you seen that really is kind of, That might be helpful to them. Good. Okay.
I think probably it's best for us to just sort of mull this
Yeah,
over a
just-
bit,
yeah, we
and
just
then
first time
come
seeing
to
that.
us as soon as possible. I'm a little bit concerned about the schedule because if they come to us at the end of April or the beginning of May, that doesn't give us a whole lot of time because we only have one meeting in June and one meeting in July and August. And they're going to need answers probably in June, and I think that might be a little too tight.
Yeah, the with our first and third Thursday schedule, we end up being on, our second meeting in June is scheduled on Juneteenth, when town offices are closed. And then the first week of July, the 4th of July is a Thursday this year. So we meet the first Thursday in June, and then, or first Thursday in June, then the third Thursday in July.
Yeah, so this
So
is
that's
going to
the-
be tough to give them what they need, but I have to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if their schedule slips back too.
Yeah, I mean, they had timelines that they were talking about today, but it wasn't, I think it's, pending approval, that it's, you really can't do
Yeah.
too much until they get approval, so making sure that we're giving the right amount of thought
Yeah, I mean,
ahead of time.
it's a hugely important building, and we don't want to rush it.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Great stuff. High school subcommittee. Forget who's on that one. I know that you attended.
I've been
Barbara
attending the
attended?
meetings, I'm not on the subcommittee.
Yep, and they do have another meeting, I put in the announcements next Thursday at 6:30.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yep.
listed on their
Any
website.
summary from the last one?
I will say, I think the meetings have been very well attended.
Good.
Both online and in person. Currently, as to the last meeting that I attended, which I think was the last meeting they had, there were still 4 options on the table, kind of 5, but everybody knows they're not really going to go with the one that's on the student parking lot, so let's just
Okay.
admit it. Maybe they're not going to like me saying that. So maybe there were 5 options, but one on the student parking lot, which most people seem to think is going to be too tight. 2 that were ad reno options, which both involved keeping the upper third of the building, but no high school activities would be in there. That would be administration, BCAT, and the science center and the daycare. They demolished the center portion of the building, keeping the gyms and possibly the auditorium. One plan keeps the auditorium, one plan doesn't.
Okay.
Then they would be building an addition that kind of goes out into the circle area. There's 2 different versions of that. So all of the high school activities, the classes, the cafeteria, all of that would be in a brand-new building
Section
that
of
is built there, and then the section that's in the middle is demolished. So the kids could go to school during this building, but, there is some disruption
Sure.
involved when their building is so close.
Always the case, yeah.
The other 2 options involved building a brand-new school on the site of Varsity Field, and there were 2 options there. The controversy surrounding that is, then where do you put Varsity Field? And there were 2 options that I'm aware of that were being discussed. One was to put it, they still demolished the middle section of the high school and put Varsity Field there. That is understandably encountering strong resistance from the neighbors that
Neighbors.
live all around there because, stadium lights, stadium sound, all of that surrounded by single-family homes. So that's encountering a lot of resistance. So
Imagine it over 3 years old.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think in response to that, the school building committee suggested that it would be possible that they might be able to locate Varsity Field, not the track, just Varsity Field, in the practice fields, and then have the track in the center where the high school was, because the track and field events are not as loud, frequent, noisy, and lighting.
We got to track them ourselves, too.
The problem with that is that that portion of the site has not been flagged by conservation.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know about the rest of you, but I personally have tried to walk across
Right,
that
good
field.
luck.
And my sneakers got wet, down to my socks. So that is going to be flagged, as I understand it, and reviewed with conservation sometime in March or April, I guess. I'm not exactly sure when. And that will determine whether or not it's feasible to put something there.
Okay.
At the same time, this is not exactly related to the high school, but we should be aware that the school department is also in front of conservation to discuss the field project at Marshall Simons Middle School. And I understand there are concerns there as well with conservation because it is close to wetlands and because the turf field itself is toxic material, very close to the wetlands. So I think it's going to be very interesting to watch what happens there with Marshall Simons Middle School, because it will probably inform what happens over at the high school practice
Great.
field.
A lot of stuff going on. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other comments on any other, this or any other subcommittees? No?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded? Anybody?
second, yeah.
Okay.
Gaffney?
Yes.
LaRue?
Yes.
Impemba?
Yes.
Cavino?
Yes.
Rappaport?
That's
Natola?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Tony, I hope you feel better.